morning. That was a little bit louder than I thought. It's 9 a.m. and good morning, Council and guests and staff. I call to order the meeting of January 23rd, 2024. And that's a Committee of the Whole meeting. And the reason I call this meeting to order as clerk is because Mayor Murtard is unable to attend in person. I don't know if he's joining us virtually. Not yet, but he may at a later time today. And Deputy Mayor Lutz had to send regrets. And Section 15 of the Municipal Government Act allows Council to appoint a chair from among the Council members present in that case. And so I would like to ask for a motion to appoint a chair. That was moved by Councillor Granger and Councillor Allen seconded. I would like to have that motion up on the screen, if that's okay. And so the motion is that Committee of the Whole appoint Councillor Armstrong as chair of the January 23rd, 2024 Committee of the Whole meeting. And please vote now. And that's, let me just check, passed unanimously. Councillor Burgess, I should note, was unable to attend the morning part. Have not heard from Councillor Killam. Hopefully he'll be able to join us soon. I see that Councillor Armstrong didn't vote, obviously, because she is being appointed, and Deputy Mayor Lutz is unable to be here. And as far as I know, Mayor Murtard's not here yet either, so that motion passed, and I will gladly give over the chair to Councillor Armstrong.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. As the clerk pointed out, and she has called the meeting to order, we will now do roll call. So if you could register your presence, please. Councillor Hurdle, you have your light on.
Yes. I just wanted to note that at 9:30 I have to leave for an appointment, but I'll be back.
Okay. Yep. Thank you. Now, as the clerk pointed out, Deputy Mayor Lutz is not with us this morning and doesn't plan on joining us this morning. So we need a motion to excuse her from the session today. Councillor Hurdle and Councillor Harding, thank you very much. And I don't think there's any discussion on that, so if you could register your vote on that right now, appreciate it. Wow. Okay. Councillor Davidson, are you in on that? Councillor Allen? Yes. Okay, great. So that passes. And also, as the clerk mentioned, Councillor Burgess is out for an appointment this morning. Hopefully will join us before the session is over. If not, towards the end, we will make a motion to excuse her if she hasn't arrived before we're finished. And hopefully the mayor will be joining us virtually soon. So we have an agenda before us today. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to go over it. Are there any additions or deletions on that particular agenda? Nope. So can I have a motion to approve? Oh, all kinds of them. Councillor Hardy and Councillor Allen, thank you very much. If there's no discussion, I'll ask you to register your votes now. And once we have an approved agenda, that'll be an opportunity for anyone on the council to make us aware of any disclosure of conflict of interest on any items on the agenda. See nothing there. The agenda has passed. Thank you very much. We also had the minutes from our December 19th in our package. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to go through those. If there are no errors or omissions, I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes. Councillor Granger, Councillor Davidson, thank you. No discussion? All those in favor? You can register your vote. Thank you. Was there any business arising from the minutes of December 19th that anyone would bring forward at this point? No? Great. I see Councillor Killam has arrived. Good morning, Councillor Killam. So we have some presentations for us today. The first one is a presentation of the Valley Waste Resource Management Authority budget for 24-25, and that is being presented by Mr. Dwight Wynot and Mr. Andrew Garrett. So it's all yours.
Thank you. And can you hear me okay? Yep. Great. I'm usually lower than that, but that's good. Thank you. So yes, today I'm presenting the operating and capital budget for fiscal 2025, as well as going over our forecast for this year. So that's really what our budget is focused on. On this first slide, you'll see our overview for the current year and for next year, and this is just the municipal party contributions. So you'll see that we're looking at an overall increase from 6.621 million for our municipal parties to 6.859 million, which is an increase of just under 239,000, or an increase of 3.6% on the overall budget. And the middle column is our forecast for this year, and you'll see that we're looking at actually a surplus of close to 1.4 million, which I'll explain here over the next couple slides. Overall budget is $12 million, but just for municipal parties, it is 6.9. This is just a contribution schedule for next year that we're proposing. It's based on cash flow. Our first 2 quarters are really cost heavy. We have our spring cleanups, we have to pay insurance and so on, all up front at the beginning of the year. This chart is a waterfall graph. This explains our forecast for this year, or our surplus. On the far left is the contributions municipalities have paid. And the orange, hope you can follow, but the orange is basically representing where we're saving money this year compared to what we had budgeted last year. And I'll go over it in detail on the next slide, but your biggest influences are landfill costs in Chester. More than half of that surplus is coming from that one line item. So what's influencing our forecast? So our landfill. I'll explain that. We pay our contract with the Municipality of District of Chester is based on the actual cost of operating that landfill, plus a host fee for them. So our costs fluctuate rapidly every year. When we did our budget last year, we had used the same rate as the previous year. That was what they had provided at the time, which was $57 a ton. But we're only paying $27 a ton based on actual costs this year. That's what we're forecasting. So that's what's really driving that $766,000 in savings. We send about 28,000 tons a year to landfill, so you can see how that can add up pretty quickly. And then when I go over the budget next year, it's going to be one of the key influences for next year as well. Other areas where we're saving some money, tip and fee revenue is a little bit higher, 100,000. We're only off by a couple percent there, but that adds up to $100,000. Diversion credit funding, very complicated for those that have been at the Regional Chairs Committee, but municipalities receive the net revenues of Divert Nova Scotia every year in funding. Divert Nova Scotia operates the beverage container program, where you pay a fee and get a deposit back, as well as the tire program. Well, their net revenues were really high the last 2 years, and because of that, the cost of the funding for municipalities has gone up more than we had anticipated, and it will be again next year as well. Fuel, we are saving some money on fuel based on what we had budgeted last year. Some of that is the price is a little bit lower than we had originally thought, but also we've eliminated our fleet of roll-off trucks, which was really using a lot of fuel in previous years. And we're ahead of schedule on that, so. Lawrencetown costs are down a little bit, tied to the same roll-off system. We're no longer transporting recycling ourselves from Lawrencetown. Construction and demolition debris processing is below budget, and so is recycling. Another waterfall graph, so same as the last one. On your far left is what we are asking for last year, and on the far right is what we're asking for next year, which is that 3.6% increase. Orange is where we're asking for less money, and blue is where we're asking for more money. And I'll go over that in more detail over the next few slides, but I've already touched on diversion credits, so it'll be more funding than we had this year, and we'll be saving on debenture payments as our administration building is no longer being financed. So what increases are we looking at? So the first one we have is, I should point out that full-time equivalent staff, we're not looking for more people. Can you hear me okay? Okay. So we're at basically flat on positions. We've reduced the administration position, finance, and we're adding a utility worker for Kentville facility. Compensation for staff is $158,000. So I think most of you know, but we're not unionized at Valley Waste. We pay our staff based on the cost of living average for the 12 months prior to budget. And then every 5 years we do an external review to make sure we're competitive. And we did that 2 years ago, and it did say we're competitive, but that the CPI adjustment each year is keeping us current. So that is what we're proposing again for next year. And that's not all of the $158,000. We also have potential step increases for staff. So believe it or not, but 2/3 of our staff have worked with us for fewer than 5 years. So they're at the lower end of their salary scale and have potential to move up with experience and expertise. We've seen a lot of turnover. Major contracts. So these are really contracts that are fixed costs and are based on tonnage and we have very little ability to change. But you'll see that costs are up $340,000, but we're making up some ground in other parts of our budget because the increase to parties is not as much. So landfill disposal. We are budgeting $66 per ton for next year. That is the figure they provided to us for next year. And we're currently discussing that agreement to see if we can smooth things out better long term. Residential collection is $100,000. That's an annual increase that's built into the contract. Plus we've added 500 new dwelling units. That's been the average the last few years post-COVID, is 500 new dwelling units a year across the whole region. Recycling, we're actually looking at less tonnage for next year, but there is a 5% cost of living increase in there. Organics processing, there is an annual contract increase, but tonnage is down there as well. So we're saving a little bit of money there. Construction and demolition processing, we are starting to do more of that. We weren't doing that the last 2 years. We're sending a lot of our wood to landfill as we had lost the market for that. We're keen on starting that up again. We've actually started just a few months ago. And believe it or not, we generate 3,500 tons of wood come into our site every year. That's buildings coming down or people doing renovations. And then hazardous waste, seen a big increase this year in hazardous waste. I don't know if that's awareness and people just know to bring it into our site more, but we're looking at an increase there. In terms of our capital budget, we've split it up into 3 key areas: our rolling stock, our safety and efficiency upgrades, and building and infrastructure upgrades. So in terms of rolling stock, we're looking to replace a loader that's 11 years old. It has about 12,500 hours on it. It's really at the point where it's going to start costing us money in repairs, and the resale value is still pretty good. So we're looking to replace that. I mentioned earlier that we limited our roll-off truck fleet. We used to have 4 trucks at one time, hauling recycling between Lawrencetown and Kentville and servicing Cottage, Country, and all that. We've eliminated those 4 trucks. And they were also helping to tip our bins up at our site, but we have different bins now that attach to our loaders, so it's much more efficient. But we still need a trailer to go around and pick up some of the larger dump sites or beach cleanups, but also we still have to move recycling from Kentville to that facility. It's not far, but we do need that large trailer to do that. And for that, we need a truck to pull it. So we are asking for a 1-ton diesel pickup for that service. Forklift in Lawrencetown, we bought one in Kentville 2 years ago. It has saved us a ton of labor and effort on the site. We move our electronic pallets around, load trucks, unload hazardous waste containers, and reload trucks as well. So it is very much more efficient for us. Safety and efficiency, cardboard. So some of you may know about EPR, but we have EPR coming, not next year, but the year after. But that is strictly for residential recycling. So we'll still have to manage commercial recycling on our own dime or through tipping fees. And part of that is we can actually sell commercial cardboard ourselves, or sell it through Scotia Recycling if we bail it for them. So we're looking at adding a cardboard baler at each facility. We get about 300 to 400 tons just of commercial cardboard a year. And we're paying Scotia right now to process that. So between the cost of paying them and the revenue we could receive, the payback would be 2 to 3 years just for those balers. So that is one thing we're looking to do. So next 2 items, the wood shredder and the excavator, are tied together. There's new construction demolition regulations for our transfer stations. We've had to put in water monitoring wells this year. It's limited the capacity of wood that we can have on site at any given time. And there's only one contractor in the province that can actually service us. And they have to service all the facilities across Nova Scotia, and getting them in is not working for us, not when we need them. We're actually over our fire code when it comes to wood piles at times. So having that wood shredder would allow us to hold much more capacity on our site. Also, it's a great equipment to have should we have a natural disaster, which we saw happen in Cape Breton and Guysborough 2 years ago, the hurricane. They received 20,000 tons of wood alone in Sydney. So you can imagine that having that equipment available would be very helpful for us, and it would be mobile as well. Another thing is that both Lunenburg and Yarmouth have the same issues as us and may actually partner with us or have us process their wood for them. So there could be some revenue there as well. Ideally, a private sector would come in and have more competition, but at this moment in time, we don't have that. 10,000 for radios. Just our current radios are kind of at the end of their life and need to be replaced. These radios are actually, we don't need licenses, and will save us operating costs going forward. So building and infrastructure, this is a big one. So in our capital budget, these 2 items, replacing the tipping floor in Kentville, that's the concrete floor, which is going to be a major project, and replacing all the doors is in the capital budget at $200,000 and $120,000 respectively. However, our board just last week approved that we try to do those this fiscal year under our operating funds. And so we have 2 tenders out right now. We're pretty sure we can pull off the floor this winter. The doors are maybe. Depends on when we can get them ordered. So that would actually, if we were able to complete those won't be in our capital budget at the end of the day. And our surplus will be down a little bit because we'll be spending money on this as well. We'll keep you up to date on that because we'll know in the next week or 2 if it's even possible. HHW is household hazardous waste. So I've mentioned we're receiving higher volumes, but also our current footprint is over capacity. Our building needs to be replaced regardless. It's rusting out. We need a larger one. So we're looking to add one at our Kentville site. And it could also receive some of our other items like electronics and light bulbs and all the other things that are stewarded. We've had an engineer right now assessing our Kentville facility to see how structurally sound it is going forward. Based on that, we don't have that result yet, but we're looking to expand that building rather than build a second building. We had originally, a couple years ago, thought of buying land and building a separate building, but we think we can accommodate all the equipment, all the material on site by just expanding the Kentville building. Doing that, we put in $200,000 for the design of that for next year, and then 2 years from now would be that expansion. If you come to our Kentville site, once you pass our scale house, there's a single lane that takes you up to our various parts of our site. It gets congested pretty badly during peak times. We're looking to add a second lane. All the large commercial trucks will be separated from the small residential vehicles. I talked about construction and demolition debris. To improve our sorting, that's putting a concrete pad in up at the site as well. That will save us a lot of time and effort. And then finally, if we do expand that building, we need to move our metal pile, and that would require just expanding our construction demolition yard a bit more to accommodate that metal pile. So our capital budget is financed through 3 different means. So we could get paid with debt for some of our items, and in our capital budget we've split into 3. But that building replacement could come from the capital replacement reserve as well as the C&D pad. And we're looking to, I mentioned we sold roll-offs and so on. We actually have $300,000 sitting in an account from equipment that we sold, and we're looking to use that to help pay for some of the capital as well. And that's all I had for you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from any members of council? Oh, dear. Oh, Councillor Allen. Councillor Allen?
Chair, I was just curious with the wood shredder, what's done with that product once you shred it? Is it a source of income?
Could be. It's not always income, but we may still have to pay to get rid of the wood. In some cases, it's free. So we have sent wood to Amera in Liverpool for a steam plant to make electricity. And Scott Farms in Canning has taken wood as well to heat their building. But that's only the clean wood. Painted wood is harder to get rid of, and we would have to pay to have that processed, whether through Lafarge or other potential sources.
Very good, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Councillor Killam.
Thank you, Chair. I'm wondering about the impact of increasing the black bags at point of pickup for residential people.
Okay.
I bring this up only because I've had some calls regarding people picking up other people's garbage and having to go through the other method of dropping it off and $10 fee and all that. Just
Right.
wondering if there was any room for increasing the number of black bags at the point of pickup.
No, that hasn't been our consideration. If anything, the trend, we allow a single black bag
Yes.
per pickup. The trend has actually been across the province to eliminate that single black bag.
I thought that too.
Yeah, no, we're not doing that. There's a lot of action on our social media with people thinking we are, but we're not. That's another region that's doing that.
Okay.
But for us, it's a big safety concern. We get all kinds of hidden items in black bags. At our site, we don't allow any black bags. Commercial customers have to bring it all in clear. We've had issues where we've had chemicals being sprayed on staff, hidden items, sharp knives. We need to see what's in those bags. For us, it's a very big concern.
I understand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Killam. Councillor Granger.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. Thanks for your presentation.
Thank you.
Just had a question about the partners funding page.
Sure.
So the Chester residual increased. What would be the reasoning behind that?
Yeah, so our contract with Chester is based on the actual cost of running that landfill. And depending on when they build cells or buy equipment, staffing, it can all directly affect our cost per ton. So for example, we're only paying $27 per ton this year, which is really low, like really low. But we're budgeting 66 for next year. That's what the trend is over time. And in 2 years' time, they're projecting 80. So you're looking at $1.5 million swing just between 27 and $80 per ton. So it's a highly variable cost.
Right. Thank you. And if I can, one more question?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. The hazardous waste is increased in volume.
Yes.
Do you handle that yourself, or do you pass that off to someone else? How does that get handled?
It's a bit of both. Great question. So when a resident comes to our site, we basically sort it. So we sort all the acids and bases and batteries and flammables. But we don't actually open the containers or pour them out, with the exception of motor oil. But we just put it in drums, and another company then comes and takes it from us. So it's a bit of both. We sort, but then they...
And are you able to handle that increased volume?
Yes, we can, but we have capacity issues,
Okay.
which
great.
is why
Thank
we're
you.
looking to expand that building. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hurdle.
Through you, Chair, I would be scorned if I didn't ask the question about the windmill. I've heard it enough that folks see it not turning or not turning as frequently as they believe it should be. Can you tell me a little bit about that as a source of revenue or cost offsetting with
Sure.
the power it would generate?
So I have that same frustration. Now, there was last spring, we had it shut down for 3 months, and that was strictly parts weren't available. Really, it was. So I look out there every time it blows to and see if it's not turning. But when it's been going great since then with the repairs. Our revenue is approximately 40 to 45,000 a year. That's what we receive in revenue from the power. Our cost to repair are usually between 10 and 15,000. But you have to finance it over 20 years. So it's not a big money maker for us, but we see it as both, leading by example. We have net energy costs for our own operations and so on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there no other questions? If the council would allow, I do have one or two. There's several places in here where you talk about expansion,
Yes.
Of facilities or space with roadways and all these other things. Do we have the capacity on that site without buying more land to expand in the ways that you're talking about?
That is what we're proposing. Rather than buying more land, we're looking to just be more efficient on our site. That said, there's still a lot of unknowns. Scotia Recycling, we lease land to them. They're a private contractor. EPR regulations will determine whether they continue to process or not for us. If they don't, we may have access to that building as well, but we won't know this for another year or so. So at this time, we think we can accommodate the increased tonnage on our site with just some expansion of the buildings rather than the whole site.
And the expansion of the buildings isn't going to cut down on the flow of traffic?
No, but the widening of the roads and moving material around on site should help.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. There's no other questions, so I think we're going to accept these for information once we have the King's Transit budget presentation. So I believe that
Thank
I
you.
have your name and Mr. Wynot's name, so
It's Wynot
Mr.
for this one.
Wynot
Thank
will
you.
be presenting on that. So please.
Like exchanging presentations here. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me this morning. Thank you. Okay, let's see if I can mess this up. Okay. King's Transit, we're, I guess, in the middle of transition for the transit company right now. We're currently in the midst of the mass transit study that we're doing, and that will lead to some exciting opportunities here going forward. But We're not to that point for this year yet, so this year is kind of going to again be a status quo from an operations perspective, and move forward. So you can see from, again, try to keep some similarities to the presentations, where we are from a budget last year to a forecast to year end. So this year we're forecasting about an $85,000 surplus from what we can see today. We'll go back to the partners. And then for the following year, we're seeing an increase of up to the $1.7 million. Again, if you go to the bottom of the slide, we'll see that for the core partners, it's about a 6.4% increase, but for Digby and Annapolis, which are contractual partners, their increases are a little bit larger. And that comes from a twofold thing. One is some shared costs that they're going to take a bigger piece of, but ironically, in both of those areas, their ridership numbers are up. So from a percentage of ridership, they get an increase. So that's the summary going forward. Again, similar to what Andrew said at Valley Waste, the timing of expenses in the transit world are front-loaded, so we're looking to, instead of that straight line payments over the 4 quarters, that we would front-load that in the first 2 quarters to cover things like insurance and some other operating costs that were hit with initially. So that's the, again, proposed payment schedules. If you look at last year's budget to the forecast for this year, we can see some areas where we've either made some gains or we've spent a little bit extra. Fares are up, so that's a good thing. Fuel, we overestimated what our per liter costs would be, so volume remained somewhat consistent. But the prices did not hit what we had budgeted. So there's some savings there. And on the wage side of it, there was an error last year in the budget. There was a full-time position that got missed when we did that plan. It was a transition time, and it got overlooked. So that's where we're looking from a budget to forecast. Again, here's some of the highlights. Again, on the fuel side, we were able to be under budget. Service partners, again, are going to pick up a little bit bigger share of that at the end of the year. Ridership is up. We've exceeded our 2019, the post-COVID time from a ridership perspective, so that's good to see. And some other expenses that we've hit here. Insurance, even though we had an estimate from our insurer, we still ended up about $11,000 more than what the budget was. From an IT perspective, we switched the organization to Office 365 and some other things, so that was a result of some planning that wasn't a part of the budget. And from an employee compensation perspective, as I said, we were one full-time position was missed in the budget last year. Late in the year, we have hired another mechanic, and the main reason for that is we're running a fleet of buses that are, old. Some are. We're actually running some 2004s, so with a couple million kilometers on them. So the maintenance shop is a busy little place. The guys have done a fantastic job keeping the units on the road, but it's changed from brakes and tires to we just completed, actually a frame rebuild on 3 buses, that from the rear wheels to the rear bumper, we actually had to rebuild the whole frame as they rotted out in an inspection that was discovered. So that's what we're doing to try to bridge this another 18 months before we can actually get some buses ordered and back in service here. So it's been a challenge. And we have, again, the GM role did not get replaced, so I've been kind of doing that along with the IMSA project that we're in the midst of. And we did hire a director of finance and corporate services for both Valley Waste and KTA. And Dan LeBay is here with us today, so Dan's been a great addition to the team. Done a lot of work on the budgets and business plans, so we're glad that he's here, and we're lucky to have him. So there was a little bit of cost, again, that got added to the actuals this year. If we look from a budget-to-budget perspective, again, revenues are up a bit, so that's a good thing. But wages are up too. Again, we've got some full-time job or positions in there. The GM, obviously, the director of finance on a full, or half of his salary on a full-time basis, and we've added another full-time position for a supervisor. Our current supervisor basically works all day from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. while the buses are running, 6 days a week. So we've got to deal with that issue. So we're going to put another person in that so we can split that shift up and have some coverages and stuff there. And the rest of the costs are, are there. There's some increases. Things like insurance, again, we're seeing an increase in that category. It's very difficult to find coverage for public transit in the marketplace today. So, so that's where we are looking at. So we're going to increase that from the 1.625 to 1.7 in a funding perspective for the partners. And again, here's a couple of the items. Fuel, we're still estimating that fuel prices are going to be a little bit higher than what we've seen on average this year. Mid-year this year, we ended up getting the carbon fuel tax impact, so that's built into that number also. The service partners, again, because of some shared costs and the allocation of ridership, are going to see an increase in their funding requirements. We're projecting about a 4% increase in ridership, so that's the $100,000 there from a fare perspective. And we're being a little bit, I guess, slightly aggressive, but not too aggressive on the repairs and maintenance on the buses as we try to keep those old pieces of equipment on the road. We have built in, similar to what Valley Waste did, a 5.3% increase for the salaries for the staff. Again, KTA is a non-unionized environment, and we're trying to make sure that we keep those salaries, especially for drivers, competitive, and so we can keep folks with us. So this would be, again, the overall budget for KTA, including both the core members and the service partner members from a revenue perspective, and then from their costs, some of the major line items highlighted through that. And again, the salaries and wages would be the biggest one, especially from a forecast to actual, the GM role being one of the biggest vacancies there at this point in time. And again, these are the graphs just again showing what from a service partner perspective. So that's for Annapolis, and the same for Digby, just if anybody wants to see the details there. From a capital perspective, we're hoping in the next 6 weeks or so that the mass transit study will be completed by WSP, who are doing that for us. And then we'll be able to come back to the IMSA board and councils with the plan forward for infrastructure and buses for KTA. So we've put some estimates forward as to what that spending is going to look like over the next bit. The phase 1 study, as I said, is in progress, so we'll have that wrapped up by the end of the 23-24 budget. We have about $1 million that we received, allocated from the Rural Transit Fund, 800,000 from the federal government, 100,000 from the provincial government. That's for shelters and stops on the route. So we'll start implementing some of those once we get the mass transit study back. We do have to have some project management in there and then the electronic vehicle infrastructure program is the 11.96 million that we received from, again, federal government, provincial government, and the municipal partners, and we see that kind of unfolding over the next 3 years that way from a spend perspective. And then the current funding that we have is where those funds are going to come from. And again, from a reserve fund, that is where we stand today. We put $80,000 currently in. One of the big pieces that's going to come out of the interim IMSA project will be a a capital investment plan for both organizations, but in particular for King's Transit, where we will be able to plan to retire those buses on a regular basis and make sure that the fleet doesn't get to a state that it is currently in. So, and we have about $1.8 million in that reserve fund at KATA currently. I think that's it. So.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council? Councillor Killam?
Thank you, Chair. Just a question regarding insurance. I see 2 or 3 different numbers for insurance. I'm just wondering what they may refer to. There's one for 11,000, there's one for 33, and then there's a total of 180,000. I'm just trying to.
Okay, the 11 is the increase over the 24-25 budget.
Yes.
Okay, Mike, can I get the slides back? Did I? Back arrow. Oh, okay, hang on 2 seconds here. We'll get you, just so I don't. Okay, so for this year, so there's an $11,000 increase this year.
Okay.
Last year we had the $33,000 increase.
Oh, I see.
That was, yeah.
And the 180,000.
That's the total. That was the total for,
for,
again, the 23-24 budget year.
is that insurance on the buses and liability, the whole package?
Correct, yes. The majority of being obviously the moving fleet, the buses.
Sorry.
The majority of that being covering buses.
I see.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Granger?
Madam Chair, through you, I'm just wondering if you can raise that up a little bit. I'm a little hard of hearing. There's a
sure.
little button. It helps you move it up and down. And I just wanted to ask you on the proposed contribution schedule, if you could tell me the difference between core partners and service partners.
Okay. Gee whiz. So the town of Wolfville, Kentville, Berwick, and County of Kings are the core members,
Mm-hmm.
and they are owners of KTA. Digby and Annapolis are contractual partners, so there's an agreement. So all of the direct costs, so wages, fuel, et cetera, get billed to each unit directly for what we incur in those units.
Okay.
And then there's a shared cost calculation. So any of the admin costs, the building in Kentville, or New Minas, sorry, things of that nature, then are shared amongst the core partners and the 2 service partners based on ridership. So the percentage of ridership. So we keep track of that. So Annapolis County is roughly 24%. I think I'm looking at Dan numbers off my head here. So 24% of that administrative cost then gets billed to Annapolis County.
Okay. I'm not sure if that makes it any clearer, but
Okay.
you answered my question. Thank you.
Nope.
Thank you. Councillor Allen?
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you to the presenter. You mentioned there's funding available from different levels of government for bus shelters.
Yes, sir.
Do we know roughly how many bus shelters we would get for that amount of money?
Depends on what we build for bus shelters. A glassed-in, shelter that we see, on the side of the road, right across the street here by the EHS office, about
Yes.
$24,000 for
Wow.
that shelter.
Oh, okay.
So if we're going to put anything up like that, then that would be the cost.
Is that kind of the standard model?
That is the standard model out there. One of the things that we're hoping will come out of the mass transit study is maybe there should be some larger transfer type stations where the routes connect, so that you might actually have half the size of this room or something where you could put more people that would be picking up a bus going, say, from Greenwood to Bridgetown. So when that bus makes that connection, you'd have a location for somebody to wait for the connection instead of standing on the side of the road.
Well, a structure, yeah.
So a bigger structure. So again, I'm not, but that standard type shelter is about $24,000.
Sounds like good news. Because one of the common things I hear is people, they find on a rainy day that there's no place to wait, and then they're soaked by the time they get to work, so they end up taking a different transportation. So that's good news. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Harding?
You, Madam Chair. I see the electronic vehicle infrastructure, the $5 million. Is that for the electric vehicles, getting ready for those? And
In charging stations or the infrastructure to go with those buses.
okay,
So we're working-
that's what I thought it was, but I wasn't sure. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions. I just have one. I noticed in your variances that in your 2.5 plus FTEs, get a training manager and an additional mechanic. And I'm just curious why you would only have a part-time operations manager. I would think that that would be something that would be a full-time position.
We have one full-time position already.
Oh.
So we're going to augment that with this.
Okay, okay, all right, so it's not a part-time position, okay. Great, thank you very much. There are no other questions? So thank you very much. And I believe we have a motion to accept these. We appreciate your time and coming and answering our questions today. So we have a motion before us. The Committee of the Whole received presentations on the Valley Region Solid Waste Resource Management Authority budget of 2024-2025 and the King's Transit Authority budget 24-25 as provided on January 23rd, 2024 for information. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Killam, Councillor Harding, thank you very much. Is there any discussion? No? All right then, you can register your vote now.
Aye.
Oh, there's the mayor. Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning.
And that passes. Thank you very much. Okay. The next item on our agenda this morning is a presentation from the Valley Regional Enterprise Network. Ms. Jennifer Tufts and Ms. Kathleen Novilla? Okay. I took a stab at it anyway. So you can come down forward. This is a presentation on immigration and settlement navigation in the Annapolis Valley. So the podium is yours.
Great. Can everyone hear me okay? Up a little. Better? Great. Well, thank you so much, and good morning, council and staff. We're really excited to be here to chat about one of the program offerings that we have. So Kathleen Novelia is here with me, and we're very, very thrilled and excited to have her in a new role for us at the REN, Immigration and Settlement Navigator. So we're here to talk about that in particular, but I just wanted to start with just a little bit of. Actually, before I begin, we'd like to acknowledge that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the unceded territory and ancestral homeland of the Mi'kmaq people. Our relationship is based on a series of peace and friendship treaties between the Mi'kmaq Nation and the Crown dating back to 1725. And we'd also like to acknowledge that people of African descent have been part of Nova Scotia for over 400 years, and we honor and offer gratitude to those ancestors. Now, I just wanted to provide a little bit of context in terms of what we do as an organization at the Valley Regional Enterprise Network. So we are the Regional Economic Development Organization. We are business-led and mission-focused, and we primarily engage with businesses throughout our catchment. We ensure that we serve and satisfy our parties from municipal, provincial, and First Nation. We engage with and support all the sectors in our region. And we do really act as a backbone organization in administering and leading projects on behalf of the region. And we create a regional economic development strategy, and we really work very hard to create the conditions to be population and investment ready. These are our current funding partners. So we have almost all of the municipalities within our catchment. Currently, we serve from West Hants all the way to the town of Middleton, including Glooscap First Nation. And then we are also, your funding is matched by the dollar for dollar by the province of Nova Scotia through the Department of Economic Development. So we're not the only regional enterprise network in the province. There are actually 7 of us, and you can see the map and how they're spread out amongst the province. Really, we act as a central spoke of a wheel. We're connectors within our regions, and we have varying levels of engagement depending on the project or program that we're working on. And then the RENs collectively are a network of networks. We work to foster the ecosystems within our regions, but we're also linked through all of the RENs, provincially and also federally through such partners as the Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency. So this is that spoke and wheel. So we consider ourselves really the maintainer or the nurturer of the ecosystem that exists here in the Annapolis Valley. And we connect into all kinds of different organizations throughout the region and the province and the country. So we work with all levels of government. We work with the Crown corporations through the province. We work with all of the sector councils in Nova Scotia. We connect off to funding and training, chambers and business associations, specialized supports throughout the province, and we also connect off to research development, which we have an abundance of here in our region. So before I pass it over to Kathleen to talk in more detail about her role, I really just wanted to provide you the context to which how we got an immigration and settlement navigator here at the REN. So back in September 2021, we completed a regional workforce development strategy, and to our knowledge, we're the only region in the province to have done that. So what that strategy really did give us were concrete recommendations to develop, attract, and retain labor here. That strategy told us that we will require an additional 6,570 workers by 2029 to meet demand, and that is projected growth and retirement. One of the recommendations of the strategy is to utilize immigration as a key solution to helping fill this need. But employers lack understanding of immigration programming and what they can actually access. And we also want to make sure that the newcomers that we do have here, we retain. So we pursued funding in 2022, and we secured it in 2023 for a 3-year role with this organization. So thankfully, the province and the Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency, ACOA, have come in to provide us with $255,000 of funding over 3 years. And our contribution to that is just short of $20,000 over the 3 years. So majority of the funding for this project is externally funded. And I'm going to turn it over to Kathleen now to talk a little bit more.
Hi, good morning. So with this, I just wanted to give you an overview of what this role looked like, immigration and settlement support in the Valley. So with my role, I support the employers with the hiring and recruiting of foreign talents. So I walk through the whole immigration process with them and, hand-holding, trying to make it simpler so that they can understand it better on what they're trying to do. I try to do this by going for info sessions, and they can call me anytime. And if they decide to go forward, how does it look like? And I'm also with this role, setting up the Annapolis Valley Welcome Network. So that part there helped to retain the people who are already living here, working here, contributing to our economic system. So this one is really through social inclusion. So the things that are not covered by settlement workers, who are the Y, for example, is here to help with settlement, but there is a limit to that. So we call in the community to help with those pieces so that people are invited. People feel included living here in the Valley. And me, myself, I am an immigrant. I've been here in Canada for 19 years, in the Valley for 5 years. It was an easier transition, but because I've lived in Canada. So coming here would be to learn a new culture in Nova Scotia. And I've done a lot of moving around and used to live in Tanzania, so that part becomes a little bit easier, but I can definitely see how that could be very, very difficult for people who are not used to the moving and adapting and living and thriving. So all of this help with the overall growth of the valley, because then you can, employers get the support that they need, and the employees get to thrive here in the valley. So now, when I talk about so I'll split this into two. I will focus the first part on the employers and the businesses. How does this support look like? And then I'll also talk about the Annapolis Valley Welcome Network. So what does the support look like? We always say we help them to be immigration ready. But then what is immigration ready? So we do it through a human approach to learning, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I want to focus on the human approach because it is very important. You can always hire the people that want to come here. There are many people who want to come here. Canada is a great country, and we're a secure country. Someone else, somewhere down the line, unless if you're an indigenous person down in our ancestor, made that decision to come here, normally because of security. Wherever we come from is because of a lot of uncertainty. But if the employers always look at them as the person or the number or the thing that they just need to fill in the gap in their workforce, but not through a more human approach, then there is an even bigger gap that then the community need to fill. So it's better if both are on similar page on that. So that's how so that is more on the DI part. But I definitely, like I said, help with the immigration programs and I'll go into that. So now the little frequently asked questions. I heard that it's expensive to hire foreign worker. Is that true? Or I have temporary foreign workers, but I want to help them to be permanent residents. How does that look like? What is AIP? What is tier? What is NOC code? What do you mean activity recruitment? And really, what is immigration ready? Think of it this way. You can ask yourself if you're immigration ready. If you have a business, if you tomorrow want to hire someone, are you able to, first of all, if I break the barrier and I get you not me, but you get the person that you could hire. So you've already gone through your interview. Are you able to actually hire them? Have you done all of the steps that are required by the provincial and the federal government so that you can just be you know what? I can give my job offer tomorrow to someone who is a visitor here visiting the family and they already have a support system, or your answer is no, I cannot because I don't know about the immigration programs, or I have not done my activity recruitment, so I need to wait another 4 weeks to be able to actually give that job offer and hire someone. So that is what I mean by immigration ready. So there are a couple of things. It's totally doable. If you know it, it's doable. If you don't know it, then it's not doable. It's all about knowledge and literacy. The more you know, the more you don't know, but the more you know, the more you can make decisions that make those steps and process be digestible and doable. And so now, I've been going into communities with just talking to employers. So I've been to West Hants, Kentville, and we're gonna do some more for this upcoming year to go into different associations that have different businesses, work with the sector councils, and it gives them the essential knowledge on provincial programs that they can tap onto for free for the employers. And I also wanted to mention that with this, because in fall we went to Destination Canada, which is an international job fair with the province and the federal to Paris and Rabat. We have a pool now of like international talents. So we're going through all of that, so employers have access to that, and with that one too, there's access to like another different immigration program that would make it easier for employer to hire someone from destination Canada. So that's what we've been doing. It keeps us busy, and we get over a couple thousands of like CVs, and I believe in like actually, not actually, but like really helping the employers. I know that if I send them just the CVs, they're not gonna look at it. Who has the time? So we're going through the CVs, the province also going through the CVs and trying to like just do one little filter, and then if someone wants to come out and be like, hey, I'm trying to fill gap in this, we can send them the CVs. They can make their own decisions. Yeah, so we have like different upcoming sessions. I invite you to like come to the February 14th one if you know of someone especially too. It's going to be happening at Valley Business Hub. We have the provincial, the federal coming in, and also all of the settlement workers, and do a networking and also like a brainstorming sessions on hiring and retention of like foreign talents. So they will be there, the province and federal government, and you can ask more nuanced questions. The more you know, like I said, the more you don't know. That's knowledge, and you can ask very specific questions with them. We also have like, for example, 2 upcoming like DI trainings this is always open for public and for free and in person, because I believe the Valley, as we're growing, we need to like prepare ourselves better. And yeah, so one is going to be in Windsor, the other one is in Canfield. So now on the retention part, this Annapolis Valley Welcome Network, how do we do retention? People leave. Like I always said, if you're on the closed work permit, you have no choice. You have to stay with your employers. You have to stay here. But ultimately, the moment you get your permanent residency is when privilege comes in. You have choices now. You don't need to settle. You can choose to stay, or you can choose to leave. You can choose to leave just the employer, maybe still stay in the Valley or stay in Nova Scotia, or you can choose to leave the province altogether. The way I see it, we try to retain them here. Sometimes the jobs that are being filled is a very, very difficult job to fill, because it's not necessarily a very fulfilling jobs. But it's a strategic move from employer. You can use that as a way to like fill in those gaps. So now on Annapolis Valley Welcome Network, how do we help to retain? It's a constellations of like welcome groups throughout the Valley. So far we already have 6. It started only in September. And honestly, 6 very active. There are a couple of volunteers in there, and they're ready to welcome people who just arrived here. This program does not look at someone's immigration status. It is it's just, if you're new to the Valley, even if you're from Nova Scotia, new to the Valley, you can be connected to this group. I try not to single anyone out, because that's the part of like feeling like you're included or not. If it doesn't look at the immigration programs, anyone can go there, and people have more chances of mingling with locals. So now we have 6 active group. It still need a lot of help in each group. Some group has a lot more support from the municipal government or the local librarian, which is amazing. But the ones that do not, then it would be on us, on me, on this role to like support them. But there are 6 group to support, and so what do they do? What does it look like? Each group has a chair. Any newcomer that come in gets connected to the chair one way or another. They can directly reach out to the chair because their contact information are on the website, or the librarian refer them. So like I say, one way or another, the newcomer gets connected to the chair chat with the newcomer, and just to see, like if they have kids, what do they like to do, and then the chair can then reach out to the group of welcomers or hosts or volunteers and be like, oh yeah, you wanted to do the walk, invite them to farmers market with you. There's someone who just arrived, and the one that I'm trying to advocate for is actually sorting garbage. Someone to just like invite them to come here. Let me walk you through how to sort your garbage in Nova Scotia, because it is different. So it could be visits, could be a hike, it could be anything. The person who's volunteering doesn't have to do anything new. You like knitting, you've been going to that knitting club, that can be part of your offering. I will offer to always invite newcomers that like to knit or would like to explore knitting to come out with me. So it's very personal. The whole idea is inviting people in. How do people find us? There's the website, like I said, but there's also this welcome guide. I will leave some here for you, and we developed it, it's second edition. It's updated, it has all of the information that newcomers need. When they just move to the area, it gives you, on taxes, local news, getting involved, a lot of resources in here. So some of the group, for example, wanted to do welcome basket. This is our contribution to it. They can use this to put it in as part of their welcome basket if the group decide to do that. I do not micromanage the group. I let the group do whatever they see fit. Each community is very different, and we do social media. I'd invite you to please like or follow the Annapolis Valley Welcome Network. It is so new. The page is just up last week, and setting up the group took a couple of months to just do that and have people who are so committed. But we need support to just remember us, I guess, in many ways. Advertisements, newsletters, that's how we've been taking it up. Now, more specific supports, because we can always use that word so wide. The ones that are still looking for volunteers in the community, especially Canning, Centerville, Greenwich, New Minas area, Port Williams, kind of cover that, and then Berwick as well. Berwick is, Berwick needs a bit of help as well. Very good chairs. Wolfville, we have a lot of people in Wolfville, and I'm quite concerned that we'll have more people than the group to handle, but they're champions, they will do it. And West Hands is looking for more volunteers. And then the one that we're still trying to set up, have not been able to find any chairs to lead the group, Kingston Greenwood area. We've had a couple of newcomers that live out that way, and we're having a hard time trying to just get the group in Greenwood, Middleton, so happy to chat if you know someone. Follow us on Facebook, can be an easy one, and then remember us, remember that the community is here. Outreach, share, connect people to the Welcome Network. That's what's needed right now for it to see through 2024. And that's it for me. Yeah, thank you.
I failed to mention that Kathleen just started with us at the end of May. And so she took a couple months to kind of get the lay of the land, and the Welcome Network was just started in September, and we've already gotten this many groups together throughout the region, and we'll continue to expand as Kathleen goes. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Councillor Granger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, thanks for the good work that you do. Do you have specific or targeted countries that you are working with, or is it just the world in general?
No, I open it up. We open it up that there's no specific countries or anything. And actually, this is probably very personal, but I do believe in a lot of mingling. A lot of mingling with people of different countries and locals, which is also why this, for example, someone who is a temporary foreign worker, can still be connected to the Welcome Network, and meet more people, because the more there's that chance of chats happening, I feel like the better it is on the retention, because you just get exposed to other ways of thinking, and you become just more open-minded, one way or another, and it gets challenged a little bit. It's a bit uncomfortable, but I think it's a good thing.
The good stuff always
It's
is.
a good thing to be uncomfortable.
Also wondering, if I may, the current housing situation, what kind of problems does that present for you? And, you know, is there anything that towns and villages can help with?
I think it would be the one that I've seen working very well is when the town or the villages, even just one person, it could be from the rec department, to join their own welcome group. Like, so if it's in like a Canning, Centerville, just even that one person to join the welcome group, so that the person is always up to date on what the group is up to. So the kinds of offerings, and the kinds of offering can be part of the job of the person who's already working for the town, right? So let's say if you have recreation programs, and you have like a couple of like a skating pass or whatever, you can say that part of like my contribution to the group would be like that I will always invite people to come to the recreation activities at this town, because they live there normally. We try to match people that live around that area to that group. That's why also the catchline is a hello neighbor, welcome home. So the whole idea is that they are connected to someone who's like close to that area. Yeah,
Great,
definitely.
Just to add to that piece too, we know that housing is definitely an issue, particularly as we attract new people in. There's just not enough inventory, and there's not enough types of the inventory that people need, whether it be apartments, whether it be single-family homes, whatever the style of housing need for that individual. And we've had these conversations when we work with the Department of Immigration, because they equally have those challenges too. But the more that we know, particularly on the rental side, what is out existing for inventory, then we have that information to supply to any of the newcomers that we're working with that have some housing challenges. But to Kathleen's point, when there's a direct connection to a municipal unit, you know, helping with the Welcome Network, then that's even more information that we can carry between the newcomer and hopefully support them in that way. And there are others, Kathleen alluded to, there are other settlement support organizations in the valley too that may help on that piece too. Yeah.
I have 2 villages in my district, so I may suggest that you let the villages know information is a great thing. You don't necessarily have to present, but if they have the information, at least they have the information, and that can be helpful.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, some I've reached out to, but I just never hear back. So yeah, so I'm happy to like be connected to any of the villages and towns and.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Killam.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to our presenters, thank you for your presentation. I guess my concerns were following along with Councillor Granger with respect to the housing issue. If we're looking at needing 6,500 workers by 2029, is there a plan that maybe the federal representatives, provincial and municipal representatives could get together on a housing forum to try to sort some of this out and plan a little bit for the future, I guess? Thank you.
Yeah, those conversations are definitely being held, in particular when we speak with the Department of Immigration. We have a direct connection to the Department of Immigration and Population Growth through this community's Community Navigator. So all of the information or navigation to employers that we work with goes particularly through her. But the province and that department is acutely aware of the needs for that, and and the federal government as well. And we've been supplying as much information as we can about the local on the ground needs to those as they work on their pieces related to housing.
And if I may add to that, on this part, during the RAN conference, like we did meet with, and I've been meeting with quite a number of like employers, and there are a couple of, people come up with very innovative, people in the Valley are creative. So I've heard of one that was, one of them I was like directly involved, and the second one was very creative. The employer, when they were hiring someone who's coming in from, let's say in this case, outside of the country, so we're thinking of someone who has no connection to the Valley at all, he reached out to his own staff. Just say, hey, we're hiring someone. There's only one person, and does anyone has a room that you can rent out? We're only asking like if you could even just help for like 4 months. Could be just like temporary. It helps with like for the person to come here and not get scammed, and the person has the time once they're here to find something else. And it just buys them, it's just a little bit of buffer, it lowers a lot of the anxiety, and you can make your a little bit of extra income. It can be a good culture exchange. You can teach them about our work culture and come into work with them. And honestly, today we also have Happy Pad, right? Which is like that is paid by the provincial government. It's like an online thing to help with those managing someone who is like that you're renting out your room for. So there's like things like Happy Pad that then the staff could hop onto that to help with those pieces. The other one, so this is for employers that have no housing. Some other ones that have little housing or something like that, they might do subsidy, like they just like subsidize the housing to their own employees. So if you're working for me, you have this, and it could be short term. And I normally do try to encourage for the employees to not be the landlord, not for a long period of time, just because it puts the employee in such a vulnerable position. So that little buffer really works. Yeah.
Just a question further, if I could. I know Annapolis County, I believe, have a housing society within their municipal unit, and I'm just wondering if that has been helpful in
the one in Annapolis County, actually don't know. I know Valley Roots for the housing that is like I was in that committee for a while, and building something with near Middleton, I believe, and another one, New Miners. I can't really remember, sorry. I was in that committee then. I've been out of it for a bit. I need to go back in. But there's also Valley Roads that are locally here in the Valley, actually. Yeah. There's been like a meeting for affordable housing like solutions, and
yes.
The concrete steps that are being taken. I think like there's like a land acquisition was already done or something. Just can't remember the details.
Yeah, we'll look into it.
Yeah.
Thank you. I have others, but I'll leave it for later. Thank you.
Thank
You
you,
can always reach out to us. We're
Yeah.
happy to chat.
Councillor Davison.
Hi, thank you very much for your presentation. You definitely have your work cut out for you. Immigration boom, through COVID. I don't think we expected it to be where it went. Just a couple questions. I was just writing down some things. It's great you guys have programs that everybody can come, individuals. My first question would be, are there people that can come into these organizations, and we all want to learn the cultures of everybody coming in, but unfortunately there's so many from different cultures in different countries. It's really hard to figure out what this group and this group and this group, what their cultures are. I mean, it's been a long time since I've been in high school. I learned a lot about global geography, but now it's completely changed. When do you have somebody, when you have these group discussions come in, and discuss about our cultures and Canadian cultures, because there's a disconnect with a lot of people in immigration. Some are okay with it, some don't like it. It's a big change for Canada. Everybody wants to come to Canada because we have a great country. So are there programs put in place for them to learn, more Canadian cultures? And I just still find there's a disconnect when it comes to groups. When I see groups, I don't know if they're Ukrainian sometimes, if they're, there's so many out there. How can we come together so there's not such a division between, us and all the other cultures? Are there programs out there that can teach that? Sometimes there's issues with, for some reason this culture may think or may do something different that in our culture is
Absolutely.
rude.
Yeah.
Or they might think that we're doing something, but we're there's just so much that we need to learn, and I want to learn it, but if you can take some of those and try to answer some of them for me. I don't know if you can or not, but
I think that is a very, very good point. It's true that even when I was doing my work in Tanzania, from us going in, we needed to go through like a culture thing, and specifically for Tanzania. And for Tanzanians, our Tanzanians counterpart needed to go through that, excuse me. I do think cultural learning, it is continuous. It's very hard. That's what I was talking about, the being open-minded. Like even just like being open to just like not jump into like judgment of like that is bad, that is wrong, but just like be curious. And it's like, oh, that's interesting that they're doing that. It's a little bit weird, but I wonder why they do that. So I think that is like the very basic normally for DEI staff. Do people have to learn coming in for Canadian culture? Absolutely. And trust me, as someone who is an immigrant myself, you do need to have that safe person that can comfortably tell you that, that one, not too sure. I think you need to like kind of just like change it a little bit, because the way how we play here is a very different playground, and that is just like simply sometimes like not acceptable. And after all, I do see it as like we don't want to come here. We do need to play the role of where we're at, but it's also about people who are here being open enough to though and be gentle on the teaching. On the teaching, the explaining, give couple of chances, because there are more than one way of doing things, and it's all about like knowing it, and sometimes you might not agree, but having that tolerance, I think is what we're trying to build with the DI training, for example, in this case. And for people who are coming in here, they get a lot of that. Normally, depending on the Barbados, for example, they have training just on like to prepare the people who are coming here about Canadian culture. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So they do it on their end, but that is very, it is very good.
There's also a couple of ways that we contribute to this. One is we do bring in who we would consider experts, whether it's a federal organization or a provincial organization, to come in and put on workshops for us to talk about welcoming workplaces and cultures and things like that. As she mentioned, some countries would already contribute to that cultural knowledge before the individual's even coming here, and then at the provincial level they would get it as well. But really, the Welcome Network itself is how we learn their culture and how we make the connection in the community so that our communities foster that sense of welcomingness on both sides. Okay. So there's a couple of ways that we're contributing to that, but this position is new, so we're trying to gather some steam around that, but your question is really valid.
Yeah,
and
I think it's about whether or not to have it super, more in the system. I guess like with the Welcome Network, I'm hoping that whoever it is that get connected with the local person, that eventually the local person could be I always call it Mike Heaven in the valley. Mike Heaven that introduced me to a farmer's market. He's in his 70s, a farmer, and would always, until today still, we always chat continuously and still learning.
Okay. Thank you. Just, and patience is a virtue. Just be patient, because change
It's hard.
is really hard,
Yep.
and it's really coming quick. So, and patience, if everybody just has a little more patience, I know we can all come together and be as one like we're supposed to be. So,
Absolutely.
thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any more questions. Was your presentation given to us in our?
Yes.
We have that
Yes.
presentation, because you had some dates in there.
Yes.
And I wanted to make sure that they were available. The only other thing I would say is if you haven't, a presentation possibly to the Village of Kingston.
Yes.
Might be, they're very open to opportunities like this. So
Okay.
I would put that out there for you. So I thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
coming.
Thank you.
And certainly enjoyed the talk. And so we have a motion to accept this for information, that Committee of the Whole received the presentation from the Valley Regional Enterprise Network on Immigration and Settlement Navigation in the Annapolis Valley, as provided on January 23rd, 2024 for information. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Davidson? Councillor Harding, thank you. Is there any discussion? No? All those in favor, you can register your vote now. I'm going to stop saying all in favor, just in case somebody's not in favor.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And that's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Was anybody interested in a short break? We're an hour and a half in. Okay, we'll take a 10-minute break. We'll be back here at 25 to 11. Thank you. The next item that we have before us today is a presentation by Grayson Parker, our diversity specialist, on a project called Windows and Mirrors Literacy Project. Sorry, I had a hard time with that one. So welcome, Grayson.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here this morning. I'm here this morning to provide a briefing note on the Windows and Mirrors Literary Project. This is the project's first introduction to Committee of the Whole. And my intent today is to brief the Committee of the Whole on the Windows and Mirrors Literary Project. So the Windows and Mirrors Literary Project is a creative writing project for children and youth of African descent. The project is offered free of cost to participants aged 5 to 18, and the project will consist of a series of 5 workshops where participants will learn different mediums of storytelling like writing, poetry, drawing, etc. Throughout the workshops, participants will develop their writing skills, build their confidence, while being empowered to tell their stories. The name of this project comes from educator Emily Stiles' view that as people read, they're either given the impression that they are looking through a window or into a mirror. As a person of color, reading often gives the impression that they're looking through, or they're watching a character's life through a window, because their personal experiences are so different from what the characters are going through. There's very little literature where people of color can resonate with the character and feel as though they are looking into a mirror. Because of this, many people of color have come accustomed to reading books where the only characters they see themselves in are the stereotypes of their culture or sidekicks to the main character. These characters are often written by people who are not people of color themselves. Author Francesca Ekwasi says, "It's important to have Black and queer voices participating in the work of making real and remembering, because to be frank, the era of having stories told to, about, and for us must end. This project will affirm that not only do stories from the perspective of people of color matter, but they make a difference by supporting school-age children and youth develop their writing skills, build their confidence, while empowering them with the ability of storytelling." The Windows and Mirrors Literary Project is funded by the Association of Black Social Workers, and the Association of Black Social Workers African Nova Scotia Youth Development Grant. And it is a partnership between the Municipality of the County of Kings, the Valley African Nova Scotian Development Association, and Eagle Speaker Publishing. Jason Eagle Speaker of Eagle Speaker Publishing understands the lack of representation of BIPOC authors and chooses to focus his publishing on supporting BIPOC works. To date, Eagle Speaker Publishing has published the works of authors from over 250 First Nations and many authors of the African diaspora. Participants will be mentored by author and publisher Jason Eagle Speaker, who will expose participants to the work that goes into writing and publishing while giving them a hands-on experience in a career in the publishing industry. There will be additional guest mentors at each session, and at the end of the project, the work of all participants will be published in a collective book. There are no financial implications for this project. And for strategic plan alignment, it doesn't align with any of the particular pillars, but it is a community partnership project. So my recommendation today is for the Committee of the Whole to receive the information on the Windows and Mirrors Literary Project, briefing dated December 23rd, 2024.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Grayson? Sounds like an amazing project.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really exciting, and the students were super excited when we had our first session last week.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll get a chance to see the book when it's done.
Mm-hmm.
So we have no questions. So as you read, the motion before us is that the Committee of the Whole receive for information the Windows and Mirrors Literary Project briefing dated January 23rd, 2024. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Granger and Councillor Allen, thank you.
I just wanted to say that I forgot to mention before I started that there are community potlucks taking place every Tuesday at the VCLA from 5 to 6. If anyone wants to stop by, there are lots of newcomers that go, and just a good opportunity to mingle with community.
Great, thank you. Always like to hear about food. Okay, so we have a motion that's been moved and seconded. If there's no further discussion, you can register your vote on that motion now.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And that motion passes. Thank you. So our next item is Municipal Election 2024 voting method and alternative voting bylaw, and that's being presented by our municipal clerk, Yanni Postma.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So presenting to you today on the voting method and alternative voting bylaw for the municipal election 2024. It is 2024 now, so it's close. So to start with, the voting method. Municipal elections are held every 4 years on the third Saturday in October. That's Municipal Elections Act Section 10, and so the election this year is on October the 19th. And the Municipal Elections Act also states that council may, by bylaw, authorize voters to vote by mail, electronically, or another voting method, and that's per section 146A, subsection 1 of the Municipal Elections Act. And so it's really any voting method other than traditional paper balloting that would require a bylaw. So full disclosure, my recommendations, or I should say staff's recommendations, it's not just me, to you today are, first of all, that Committee of the Whole recommend Municipal Council resolve to conduct the municipal election 2024 by electronic voting, and electronic voting includes internet and telephone. And that Committee of the Whole recommend that Municipal Council give first reading to Bylaw 108, and that's the alternative voting bylaw. In 2020, the municipal election was held by a hybrid voting method, so that's both paper and electronic. The percentage of voters that voted electronically, so that's all voters that actually voted, was 74.5%, so almost 3/4 voted electronically in 2020. In 2023, we had a special election, as you know, in District 8, and that was electronic voting only. In both cases, there were no issues with electronic voting. It was a very smooth process. And I should also note that in 2020, that was the first time that this municipality used electronic voting. So here are some of those numbers. So I already mentioned in 2020, the 74.5% of voters voted electronically. So that was both internet and telephone, and so approximately just under 3/4 of voters, and the other quarter voted by paper. Across the province, the number of municipalities that is using electronic voting only, so paperless elections, is very much on the rise. In 2008, there were only 4 municipalities conducting paperless elections. And in 2020, 39 municipalities conducted their elections by electronic voting. So that's 39 municipalities out of the 49 in total. And during that period, from 2008 until 2020, voter turnout across the province increased by more than 10%. And so here are those numbers. So as you can see, 2008, there were 4 municipalities using electronic voting. And in 2020, that had increased to 39 out of the 49 municipalities. So a comparison, hopefully you can read that. It's really a summary of what is in the request for decision. So comparing electronic voting to hybrid voting. What is not included in this table is just a paper balloting. So if it's paper balloting only, that is not included here. So electronic voting versus adding paper balloting to electronic voting. Probably the biggest factor is that there's a higher cost to adding paper balloting. One of the biggest factors of that is remuneration for election workers. You need a lot more election workers as soon as you add paper balloting. We're talking about, for example, in 2020, we had 54 polling stations across the municipality with more than 140 poll workers at those different polling stations. And so obviously there's a cost to that. For paper balloting, you also need to pay for hall rentals. There's a higher cost for printing. You need to print the ballots, for example. Training of election workers is also a higher cost. All of those poll workers need to be trained. In 2020, that was done by the assistant returning officer. We had an excellent ARO at the time, Giselle Caron, and she did a great job training those election workers, but her time, of course, had to be paid for, and then the election workers' time was paid for too. So those are factors that contribute to a higher cost when you add paper balloting. We get to the budget later in this presentation, but adding paper balloting to electronic voting would add about $50,000 to the election budget. There's more preparation time involved for hybrid voting. An advantage to having electronic voting only is that the results are available immediately at the closing of the polls. And of course, with paper balloting, all the ballots have to come in first and have to be counted, so that takes a few more hours before you have those election results. If it's electronic voting only, the advantage is that electronic voting can be available until the closing of the polls on election day. If paper balloting is added, electronic voting needs to end 1 or 2 days before election day, and that has to do with it's a technical issue. Electronic voting and paper voting can't happen at the same time because the personal identification number that voters receive for electronic voting has to be disabled before a paper ballot can be issued. And that is based on a list of voters indicating who has already voted electronically. So on election day, to be able to vote on a paper ballot, you need to know who has already voted. So the poll workers at the various poll stations need to have those lists to indicate who has already voted. And that takes time, obviously. That's 1 or 2 days before election day that electronic voting has to end. Another advantage of electronic voting only is that candidates will have access to their candidate modules until the end of election day. If paper balloting is added, candidates lose that access to their candidate modules because electronic voting ends, and with that, they also lose access to their candidate modules. And so candidates, would lose access to live voter lists, for example. If we were to have an electronic voting election only, voters would still be able to come in person and vote. Obviously, they would still vote electronically, but the plan is to have voter help centers, at least one in each district. This location would be one of them. So during the entire period of e-voting, voters would still be able to go to a physical location to vote, should they wish to do that. If they feel that they need assistance with the voting, or because they just like to come in person and vote because they've been doing that for many years, they would still be able to do that. Let me think, what else is there? So election workers, right, a number of election workers, I already talked about that. For electronic voting only, we would only need election workers for those 9 voter help centers, probably 2 at each voter help center. And I already mentioned that we had more than 50 polling stations in 2020 that would require a number of election workers. And in terms of voter turnout, is not expected to be higher if we were to add paper balloting. The numbers over the last few years have shown that it doesn't have a significant impact on voter turnout to offer a paper ballot option. Okay, I think I've covered everything there. So just to talk a little bit about electronic voting, I probably don't have to convince you that it is a great option to have. So we're not really talking about should we have electronic voting only or paper balloting only. But just to emphasize the advantages of electronic voting, obviously you can vote anywhere, anytime. You can vote from any electronic device, from any location. You can be on vacation and still vote. And you can also vote by telephone, and that's an important option because we do have places in the county still where internet connections are not reliable, for example. But you can vote from your either cell phone or even a landline as well. So in that regard, electronic voting reduces barriers in terms of accessibility, cost of transportation. You don't have to get in a car and drive to a polling station. That means that you're also saving on time. So that's an advantage of electronic voting. Electronic voting is available from the first advance poll day until the closing of the polls on election day, and so that is a 10-day period. The first advance poll day is on October the 10th, and there's another advance poll day on October the 15th, but for electronic voting only, those dates don't really mean anything because the entire voting period is the 10-day period. And as mentioned, if we were to have electronic voting only, you can still go to a physical location to vote. There will also be a phone line available if people need assistance with electronic voting. So a bylaw is required for any voting method other than traditional paper ballots. Bylaw 108, alternative voting, was enacted in 2020. That was, as mentioned, that was the first time we had electronic voting, so a bylaw was required. In that case, it was a hybrid voting method, and it was amended in 2023 when we had the special election in District 8, when we had e-voting only. What we're proposing this time around is to amend Bylaw 108 to cover not only the 2024 election, but future elections as well. So that, let's say there's another special election between now and the 2028 election, for example, we would not have to go back to that bylaw and go through first and second reading again. And that is based on Section 146A, subsection 2 of the Municipal Elections Act, which states that the bylaw can apply to any election that occurs after the date stated in the bylaw or the date that the bylaw takes effect. So that allows us to amend the bylaw to cover future elections as well. Now, should council during that period wish to change the voting method, then council would still have the authority to have the bylaw amended. In terms of financial implications, where's the money coming from for the election? There's a regular contribution of $57,700 that will be included in a 24-25 budget. That will bring the municipal election reserve up to just over $200,000. On the next slide, I will show that the budget estimate for the 2024 election for electronic voting only is just under $200,000. If we were to add paper balloting, that is estimated to cost just over $50,000 more. And any funds over the $200,000 would have to come from the general 24-25 tax rate. So this is showing the proposed budget for the 2024 election. If we were to have a hybrid election, you can see the total cost there would be the total budget estimate $248,593. And for electronic voting, it is estimated to be $197,890. And so you can see that adding paper balloting would cost just over $50,000 more. And also, as I talked about earlier, the biggest part of that $50,000 extra for paper balloting is a payment of election workers. And the total budget for that is just over $46,000. And so with that, back to the recommendations. That Committee of the Whole recommend Municipal Council resolve to conduct the municipal election 2024 by electronic voting, internet and telephone, per Section 146A, subsection 1, Municipal Elections Act. And the second recommendation is that Committee of the Whole recommend Municipal Council give first reading to Bylaw 108, alternative voting, as attached to the January 23, 2024 request for decision. That's my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Postma? Oh. Councillor Harding.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I like the e-voting idea, but one thing comes to mind with me is the area where we have somebody there to help somebody vote. Since I'm in the largest district with roughly 50 kilometers between the growth area and the end of, well, we'll say Dalhousie, the village, that's quite a long ways to come get help. So, you know, I think maybe, you know, a large district like that might need another person to have one on each end. So.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Harding, we could certainly consider, you know, with some of the larger districts, yours, I think, in square kilometers being the largest one, we could certainly consider maybe adding a voter help center, so we could potentially have two in the larger districts. So I definitely see your point there.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Yanni. The voter-assisted voting centers, who determines where that would be located in the district?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Allen, one of the main things, of course, is reliable internet. That's going to be a deciding factor. One of the things that we've been thinking about is the districts where we have villages, for example. That could be a voter help center. People are already used to, you know, going to that location. We haven't really given that any further thought. It will depend on availability of, you know, perhaps community halls or fire halls as well. But internet is obviously the main factor, and the other one would be that we will try to make those voter help centers as central within the district as possible.
In District 9, that's where the internet's a problem, in the center. Basically, it doesn't exist. The other concern is I still know a number of older seniors that have told me they don't have access, they don't have a home phone line, and they also don't have access to the internet, or they don't have a cell phone. So they're basically, and they're not going to drive very far to vote or ask someone to help them vote. So I'm just concerned because in our last by-election, I think electronically only 13.4% come out to vote, which is very, very low. So those are my two concerns. Okay, thank you.
If I may just provide a comment on that, it's certainly something that we keep in mind. You know, people who don't want to have to travel too far and they don't have the ability at home to vote. That's something that we're definitely looking at. And the other thing I wanted to mention is the just over 13% voter turnout during the special election. We don't really know if we would have had paper balloting available as well. We don't know if the voter turnout would have been higher. We suspect that it probably would have been about the same.
Councillor Davison.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Quick question. When I was on the campaign trail back for the special election, there were several. There was one in particular, nursing home, that there were some questions forwarded that they could not understand how to do the electronic. A lot of them don't have cell phones, don't know how to use computers. They also had no transportation to get to New Minas to do voting. I don't know if I know they do it with provincial elections, but do we have a way to get some of these people to these polling stations?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Davison, we will most likely have mobile polling stations. Well, I shouldn't call them polling stations, or maybe a mobile voter help center if we were to have electronic voting only. In the 2020 election, we had mobile polling stations at, I don't know the number, but probably 2 or 3 of those locations. So that will, those voters will be accommodated. We'll make it easy for them to, they wouldn't have to leave their place of residence.
Okay, and just to follow up on that, are we, again, I don't know, I'm new, I'm the rookie here, so education. So is there going to be a lot of education for those that aren't really technically savvy?
Through you, Madam Chair, absolutely. We will make sure that we get a lot of information out in different ways. And the information itself will not just be electronic. I'm sure we'll use the flyers that we've been using for other situations that seem to be very effective. We will be able to get some information out with text newsletters, and we'll get out as much information as we can, absolutely.
Perfect, thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Did you want us to take these recommendations individually?
I think that would work best, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, thanks.
So the first one before us is that Committee of the Whole recommend that Municipal Council resolve to conduct the municipal election 2024 by electronic voting, internet and telephone per section 146A, subsection 1, Municipal Elections Act. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Granger, Councillor Davidson, thank you. Is there any discussion on this? I'll call the question and you can register your vote now.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And that passes with 1 negative vote. Thank you. And can we have the second one? The Committee of the Whole recommend that Municipal Council give first reading to Bylaw 108, alternative voting, as attached to the January 23rd, 2024 request for decision. Can I have a mover? Councillor Davison? Councillor Allen, thank you. Is there any discussion on this? No? Call the question, and you can register your vote now.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I say that only so that you know that I hear you, or we hear you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And that passes with 1 negative vote. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Our next item is a tender, number 23-26, supply, deliver, and licensing of new vehicles. And Christy Taylor, Procurement Officer, is presenting on this. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. Just before I jump into this, I just wanted to say I've not had an opportunity to formally meet most of you, so I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Christy Taylor. I'm the Procurement Officer. I started with the municipality back in May 2023, and ever since then I've been involved in all of the public procurement since that time. So today I'm presenting the tender for 23-26, the supply, delivery, and licensing of new vehicles. This tender was released to the public on December 6th and closed on January the 9th, 2024. This tender was posted to both our municipal website and the Nova Scotia procurement portal. And we received 1 submission, which was reviewed by all internal stakeholders. This tender was for the purchase of 7 new vehicles budgeted across 3 departments for the 2023-2024 fiscal year. 3 were going to engineering and public works, 1 to recreation, and 3 to inspections. 1 vehicle was identified as a trade-in during this fiscal period. As per the 2020 fleet optimization study, which indicated that we were to choose to select the most green vehicle option possible, we did request only hybrid vehicles for this tender. That decision was made because at this time we do not have the charging stations required for purely electronic vehicles, so hybrid was deemed the best option at this time. For the Recreation Department, they had identified a replacement vehicle request, and the successful bidder submitted a Mazda CX-90, which meets the needs for the Recreation Department. EPW has identified 2 vehicles as additional to the fleet and 1 identified as a replacement. The successful bidder has submitted Ford F-150 trucks, which meet the needs for the EPW department. And Inspections and Enforcement have 2 replacement vehicles and 1 additional vehicle. They were identified as Honda CRX, which are SUVs. And the trade-in was a Jeep Patriot from 2013. In terms of financial implications, and the reason why I'm here is because as per section 6.2 of the procurement policy, it states that council approval is required for any purchases in excess of $150,000. These vehicles are being funded from GL 21-3-382-901 Municipal Fleet and EV Charging Stations. The budget for vehicles is $445,000. I would just like to make a note, there is a slight error in the RFD, which has the total GL balance of $679,973 in place of the vehicle budgets. That was my error, my apologies. And so the recommendation that I'm bringing to you is that the Committee of the Whole recommend Municipal Council award tender 23-26, supply, delivery, and licensing of new vehicles to Bruce Leasing Limited as described in the request for decision dated January 23rd, 2024. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? I have one. This is Bruce Leasing. Are we leasing these or are we buying these?
Through you, Madam Chair, we are purchasing these vehicles. It is just the registered name of the business that we are purchasing them through.
And the Ford F-150s, they are hybrid?
Correct, they are.
Thank you. And we have questions from Councillor Granger.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. So the price includes EV charging stations, is that?
Through you, Madam Councillor, no, it does not include the charging stations. The GL simply vehicles and the charging station are under this GL currently. This is strictly for the purchase of new vehicles.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hurdle.
Just for clarity, I'm doing math on per vehicle. Has this has been determined, this has been priced, and this is the best price that Bruce Leasing or others could get us?
Through you, Madam Chair. So as per requirements, we did issue the public tender where we only had 1 submission. That's unfortunately where we're kind of down. However, I did do a lot of comparisons in terms of what is currently available out there and the offer, the bid that Bruce Leasing made, and it is a fair bid based on market terms.
In this situation, is it a requirement that it goes as a tender as opposed to taking almost a shopping aspect where you would be able to call various providers, dealerships?
Through you, Chair. We juggled with this one a lot, what would be the best avenue and the approach to take with this one. The reason why we ultimately decided on a tender is because the impacts that come with a tender are essentially a promise. We are promising to purchase vehicles, and with that becomes a lot more certainty for the vendors. Rather than an RFP requires a lot of time and a lot of preparation, a lot of documents to put together and submit. And if there's no guarantee on their end that this may not even be awarded, it tends to be less tempting for vendors to even submit proposals for. So we were really trying to make this as advantageous as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Killam.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. Bruce Leasing, is that a local company?
Through you, Madam Chair, I believe that they're located just a little further down the valley in Greenwood, I think, but they are local to the area, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I will pipe in, Bruce Auto Group is headquartered in Middleton, but they have dealerships up and down the valley. Lots. There are no further questions. So the recommendation in front of us is that Committee of the Whole recommend Municipal Council award tender number 23-26, supply, delivery, and licensing of new vehicles to Bruce Leasing Limited, as described in the request for decision dated January 23, 2024. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Allen? Councillor Davison, thank you. Is there any debate? No, I'll call the question. You can register. Oh, sorry, Councillor Hurdle.
Yes, I don't know if anyone has ever engaged with me while I've been shopping for vehicles, and I recently had the opportunity to purchase what would be my first new vehicle in my adult life, so I absolutely went to town on that and explored my options quite literally from edge of Nova Scotia to the tip, and vehicles are they're difficult to get at a good price, but just doing the basic math on this seems, to me, it feels fairly reasonable. While it's not absolutely the best price, and I know that I would be driving if it was a different bargain if I was the one negotiating this. I think this is very fair, especially for some of the promises and the certainty that this brings us. So as well, the flexibility of a hybrid model. So I'm absolutely supportive of this and think that we are getting a decent price. So thank you.
Thank you. No further debate? I'll call the question. You can register your vote now, please.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Oh, sorry. Taking a nap. That passes. Thank you very much. Thought I was in my old seat. The next item before us today is a councillor item coming from Councillor Killam, and the topic is a water bomber. Councillor Killam, the floor is yours. Oops. There you go.
Okay.
You're on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just bring this forward as probably a proactive measure for what's happening with our climate change. And I did this up prior to our last REMO meeting, which we had last week. And it was indicated by Dan through his sources that this particular year is going to be an extremely high risk area for wildfires. And that just adds to what I'm trying to get to here with respect to the possibility of placing a permanent water bomber in at CFB Greenwood, which would have to be consulted with, of course. But I mean, our local fire departments do an excellent job, but there's sometimes it's access to the forestry areas, and a water bomber could be a first response to a wildfire. And I understand that the water bombers now are, as I understand it, are stationed out of Newfoundland. And if we needed a water bomber, there would be certainly a time element there involved. But I was thinking of not just Kings County, but Hants County, Annapolis County, and Lunenburg County. There are adjacent municipal units and very forested areas, and thinking that possibly if we reached out together to the federal government and provincial government to see about implementing such a project. And that's why I bring this recommendation forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Councillor Killam? Councillor Granger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We need to obviously know the financial implications of this, and they could be quite steep, spread across all the different counties, the province, other municipalities, ourselves, and the feds. Would one suffice for such a large area, in your opinion?
Yes, I believe that it could happen, and that the financial implications, I think, mostly would be borne by the federal government. I think they're looking into a water bomber fleet, and possibly I'm just getting our hook in there to see if they would consider CFB Greenwood as a base.
So that's where you want to start off?
That's
just seeing if it's feasible?
Yeah, it's just a process here to try to get interest and also support. And I think the local fire departments want to have some input in this for sure. And I'll leave that out there, but that's the thoughts. Thank you.
And the support team that would have to go with that, do we know how many people that would involve, or?
I'm not quite sure of that. I know it would be a considerable cost, but as I said before, I think this is being done in other areas, and it's not a formidable project in my mind financially. So I think the feds and the province would hopefully consider partaking. We couldn't do it at a municipal level for sure, so it would have to rely on the federal and provincial governments to bear most of the costs. And
thank you. I think this is wonderfully proactive, and thanks for bringing this to our attention.
Thank you, Councillor Granger. Councillor Hurdle.
Thank you. I respect the proactive nature in asking the questions if this would be a benefit. Have you explored any of the absolute benefits on this? Because, I mean, Deer Lake is an hour and 40-minute flight from here, and so is that hour and 40-minute flight any substantial holdup relative to the benefit gained in having a water bomber relocated locally? Have we experienced any issues that have not been able to be met by the fleet of water bombers out of, that would be in Newfoundland? Is this, are we asking just for a relocation, or are we asking to take on a financial burden? I'm just seeing the annualized cost of a CL-415 Bombardier aircraft at 1.5 million, and that's just the aircraft, not to mention the storage, the flight crew, and all of that. Can we say that for $1.5 million that the difference in time is any tremendous impact that is not being met by what we have for existing coverage? These are all questions I'm wondering. I don't know the answers, but in looking at the financial costs, can we make the dollars make sense?
I believe that we can, and especially in looking at costs that were incurred with the two wildfires that happened in last year with Halifax and the Barrington area. There are millions of dollars that might have been saved if they had had a quicker response. Now, I don't know all the answers to these questions. That's why I'm bringing this up, to explore this whole project idea. It makes sense to me that if you had a water bomber station in Greenwood, that it could hit anything locally within the region, and could save a lot of properties and businesses. So that I guess I'm looking at this as a proactive project, and maybe one that we'd like to look into further and find out what the costs really are, and if there's interest from the federal and provincial governments to explore it.
Is there the possibility, before making this decision, to take this as a question to Minister Lohr, who's in charge of emergency management? He's 3 kilometers down the road, and he might be able to give us some more insight into the cost, the benefit, and if this is going to be proactive in a productive way with limited resources and limited availability. I'd be interested in more details going forward, certainly.
As I would be, and Minister Lohr would probably have some input as to what's available from the provincial level and their thoughts. So, sure, this is a good start. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Davidson?
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. I'm kind of going off what Councillor Hurl just said. I'm writing down a few things, battling wildfires in my fire career for quite some time. Was one of these letters sent to DNR head of projects, Jim Rutherham, prior to us discussing it? They would likely go through DNR through that gentleman for information on costs. This is a huge discussion. Our budget with forest fires through each year, we always go over budget in the province. So last year it was astronomical, the cost. I don't know if Nova Scotia is ever going to get a plane. They have mutual aid agreements with Quebec, Newfoundland, New Brunswick. I guess the costs would be whether or not the mutual aid agreement is more than what a plane would cost, because a plane's going to be a ridiculous amount of money as far as our own fuel goes. No, we're not an overly rich province, but if we were going to do something like this, it likely would have to go through Minister Lohr to ask for federal money for this to even happen. So it's a good start. It's a good discussion. I don't foresee it in the near future, this happening. Maybe down the road, or a few more natural disasters before they really take this serious enough to get a plane. Like I said, I can't see it happening right now, and the province itself would probably not be able to afford one unless we had federal money. So just something to throw out there. It's a great thing to discuss, and maybe having somebody come in and maybe a guest speaker to talk to us about what their plans are in the future with the wildfires that we're probably going to see for the next several years.
Thank you. We're getting a little bit into debate here, so we actually don't have a motion on the floor yet. So I apologize if I'm putting Councillor Killam on the hot seat here, as far as as far as answering questions that maybe you don't have the answers for. But we'll carry on with them, and we'll see how we make out. Okay. So questions of clarification from Councillor Granger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you. Is it possible that this bomber could also, water bomber, could be shared provincially with New Brunswick, or because of the location of Greenwood, it's a good spot. So to maybe curb some of the costs and financial implications, loaning it out to another province that's in mind? Is that something we could consider?
That's a good point. New Brunswick isn't that far across the Bay of Fundy from Greenwood, for sure, and it could enter into the whole thing if indeed there's interest. So, yeah, good idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hurdle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think my statements have more in line with debate at this point, and so I'll hold off.
Why don't we get the recommended motion or the suggested recommendation on the floor, and then we'll take it from there. How's that? Oh, Councillor Davidson?
Yeah, sorry, through you, Madam. I did ask a question. Was there a letter sent to, I'm sorry, I know it sounded like a debate.
I believe at this point, there's been no letters sent.
Okay, thank you.
No. Thank you. So the suggested recommendation that we have before us is that Committee of the Whole recommend Municipal Council ask the Mayor and CAO to contact our local municipal partners to join Kings County by writing letters to provincial and federal governments to station a permanent water bomber and appropriate support staff at CFB Greenwood to facilitate a first response to future wildfires that threaten the residents and properties throughout this region. Can I have a mover, please? Well, we'll take Councillor Killen, since it's yours. And a seconder is Councillor Granger. Thank you. So now we will do debate. Councillor Hurdle. Oh. There you go.
Okay, perfect. I like the ideas, the thinking, the proactive nature to this. I like all of the imagining and trying to be constructive and protective in the same sense. I think we might be getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, trying to reach out to our municipal partners, and with the idea of also writing letters to our provincial and federal governments at this point, simply because we're lacking in details and lacking in collaboration, because I see this as a primary focus of the province, but given the nature of an aircraft, this is interprovincial and potentially delving into federal funding as well. So first, I would prefer before taking any sort of letter recommendation to anyone else, we at least have a conversation with our most immediate resource that's adjacent to us in Kentville, and have a discussion with Minister Lohr and his office before proceeding. And I'm wondering if there's an opportunity for any sort of amendments to this recommendation, or perhaps looking at it as a friendly amendment so that we're not getting the cart ahead of the horse on this matter. And so my friendly amendment, perhaps, or maybe it's a complete amendment because it does change some of the nature of this. So I'll make a motion to amend that we ask the mayor and CEO to contact the Office of Minister Lohr to discuss permitting a water bomber stationed support team at the CFB Greenwood to facilitate a first response to future wildfires that will then threaten residents and properties throughout this region. So I essentially edit the line following CAO to reaching out to Minister Lohr's office, if that helps.
Okay. Would we consider that a friendly amendment?
Yes, certainly, and
Okay.
you know, this is sort of until we get the costs and everything, it would help a lot in everybody making a decision on this. So, yes, and
Okay.
Councillor Davison mentioned DNR, that they should probably be involved too at some point. But as much information we can put out, I think it was all in theory as to supporting the idea, and then from the idea we find out what the costs are and the implications. But the letters sending out is basically supporting the idea and the concept of doing that. So that's why I did that.
So we'll move forward with the friendly amendment, and maybe the clerk can make the amendment to that. And Mr. Mayor would like to say something. Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am speaking in favor of the motion. The initiative has to start somewhere. There's no question that that with our climate change situation, that we're becoming more and more at risk in this area. I don't think it's a question of whether. I think it's a question of when we're going to have to face this kind of emergency. And the range that we're able to service with such an aircraft would be significant in terms of bringing in New Brunswick and the entirety of Nova Scotia, at least. So and maybe even Maine, but this is a conversation that should be commenced, and I give kudos to the councillor for bringing the matter forward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Is that to the amendment or to the main motion?
Well, it was a friendly amendment, so we're not making a motion on it. I think it has been adjusted. Is it adjusted to the way that you wanted it? Okay, great. Councillor Granger on the.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. Does Greenwood know that we want to do this?
Yeah, part of that would be a consult with Greenwood of Shore. That would be part of the whole.
So that's part of the process?
Oh, yes, the
Okay.
whole process.
I just wanted to check to see if they knew what we were up to, or
No,
wanting to.
we couldn't move
to be
ahead
updated.
without that consultation, for sure.
For sure. And I do agree with the mayor. This is just kicking the door open to conversation, and that's always a great thing, especially for something like this. This could potentially take years to come about, but as we grow in population, this is going to become an important factor for our province, our neighboring provinces, because sometimes fires can work their way. So yeah, I too give you kudos there, Councillor. Nice one.
Thank you. Councillor Davidson?
I took my button off because I just had the same thing Councillor Granger just said. So should we have, under that motion, Greenwood in there when we haven't even spoke to Greenwood, because some of these aircraft are actually at the international airports, not at a military base? So should we take Greenwood right out of that and just say we want to contact about Minister Lohr to station a permanent water bomber in Nova Scotia? Because sometimes they'd be able to access, like through Lifelight and all these other, they're all done through the international airport. So I'm just wondering if we should be using Greenwood's name when they know nothing about this.
Well, I'll hop in here. Maybe I shouldn't, but I will. I think part of the reason why the provincial government, and I'm pretty sure I've heard this, is making strides in getting permanent water bombers for Nova Scotia after what we went through last year. I do believe the Premier has said that is something that he wants to see happen. So I think this is just our way of saying that if you're going to do that, we would recommend having it somewhere, like 14 Wing Greenwood is an ideal spot. Other than that, you're looking at the Halifax International Airport. And so we're a little more central. So it's a discussion that would happen. I guess we're just saying that if you're looking at buying one and putting it somewhere, why not put it here? So that's why, I mean, those would be discussions that would have to happen much, much farther down the road. They've got to buy it first, and they have to man it first, and all of that stuff, and then they'd have to have the discussion with Greenwood as to whether or not they had the capacity, with the growth that they're going through right now, whether they would have the capacity to hold one there or not.
Okay.
So I think this is just a first step.
Madam Chair, I in no way wanted to exclude CFB Greenwood as to this plan moving forward. It would be very much part of and parcel of the proposal.
But I personally don't think that that's our place as a municipal government to make those overtures. This is something that we go through the normal channels. So, if there's, are you good, Councillor?
Yeah, thank you. Yep.
Okay, Councillor Hurdle for the third time.
Thank you. And I want to state clearly that I've oftentimes negotiated, is this municipal, is this another level of government's interest, but I see this absolutely as supporting some of our municipal expenditures as a support to the local fire departments in which we fund operational costs. So I see this as a good conversation to have, a good start, and supportive in nature to things that we are already participating in. So I like the proactive thinking on this.
Great, thank you. So I'll just read the amended motion, friendly amendment on the motion, that Committee of the Whole recommend Municipal Council ask the Mayor and the CAO to contact Minister Lord to station a permanent water bomber and appropriate support team at CFB Greenwood to facilitate a first response to future wildfires that will threaten residents and properties throughout this region. We already have a mover and a seconder. If there's no further discussion, I'll call the question and you can register your votes now.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And that motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We're into board and committee reports now. We have one in our package from Dan Stovall from Kings Remo, and I'm assuming it's just for information. Hopefully everyone's read it. Mr. Stovall is not with us to answer questions, but hopefully there will be no questions, that it's his usual thorough report. Other than that, are there any committee of council reports to come for us verbally? And are there any external board and committee reports to come verbally? Nope. Okay, sounds great. Is there any other business to come before the council today or the committee of the whole? All right then. Councillor Hurdle, or sorry, Councillor Killam?
Sorry, I had one item that has been brought to me from the community of Meadowview. Councillor Meisner isn't here today, or Burgess isn't here today, and I was going to talk to her about that, but I'll bring it up. The concern is, and that we already discussed as a council, that with respect to our solar garden, our potential solar garden project, they're very interested in having community consultation on it, and I think that was our plan anyway, but I just wanted to confirm that and bring that forward from a residence in Meadowview. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we, Councillor Burgess has not joined us, so I think we should have a motion to excuse her. Councillor Hurdle, Councillor Harding, thank you. If everyone's in favor, can you register your vote on that, please?
Aye.
Thank you, Mayor. And if there's no other business, this is time for comments from, sorry, Councillor. That's all right.
I meant to ask, what is the status on the plans to have consultation on that project? I know it's down the road, but I'd like to have at least...
We will ask our CAO to answer that.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you to the councillor. So we do have a public session booked for February 12th at the Meadowview Community Center. So I believe the time on that I'd have to confirm. Greg, do you happen to know? Is it 6 o'clock, I believe? But I don't want to...
Oh, sorry. It's me.
Yes, it's February 12th from 6:30 to 8:30. Notices are going out this week to area residents, and it's posted on our website and social media now.
Thank you, Councillor Killam. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to go into comments from the public. Anybody who wishes to come forward, you can just come down to the podium, name and address, and we're all ears.
Good morning. Keith Howell. I live at Wall Street up in Canada Creek, and I believe that's Mr. Killam's, Councillor Killam's district. First off, I'd like to, Madam Chair, thank you for allowing me to speak this morning, and I'd like to extend a thank you to all of you for your public service. Having done over 40 years of public service myself, I understand the challenges that you face, and I do appreciate it. However, I will be addressing something this morning that I'm sure Mr. Killam will not like to hear, but anyway. First off, I know you've already covered the subject about, and I didn't come here to speak about this, but I do have some background in it. You were talking about firefighting equipment, water bomber. Don't get fixed, if I can say it, don't get fixated on a fixed wing water bomber. Helicopters are very effective and can be used for a lot more than just water bombing. You could use it for search and rescue and use it for inserting and extracting firefighters in tight areas. So a fixed wing aircraft can travel faster and carry a lot more water, but a helicopter doesn't need CFB Greenwood, and it could be used with a very small crew, like a pilot and a mechanic, and it could be used for a lot more things than just water bombing. Instead of just having it sitting there, not being used as a very expensive piece of equipment, try not to get fixed on that, if you don't mind me putting that in. So this morning, the reason I'm coming to the council is I'm a property owner and a taxpayer here in Kings County. And as you all are very well aware, property taxes, property assessments have gone up astronomical. Just our street alone, and I'm only speaking on our street, the average increase in our property assessments is over 70% in the last 2 years. I'm disappointed with that, but as Nova Scotians, we are all facing that, I'm sure, if you're a homeowner. I don't know if you're getting 70%, but that's what it is on average on our street. We don't receive services for what we're paying in taxes, and that's blunt and to the point. We receive garbage collection once every 2 weeks. Our road gets graded maybe once a year. Snow clearing happens 3 days after a storm. So there's people that work, there's seniors on my street. We have to take our own pieces of equipment and plow the road so we can get out. Now, you folks are probably not aware of it, but just our street alone, and I did it in the last couple of days, the taxes that the County of Kings will receive from just Wall Street in Canada Creek this year is going to amount to $97,000. Now, it's not fair, and I realize you got a lot more to deal with than just our street. However, I'm concerned about our street. There's 30 kilometers of hiking trail in our area that is quite often very busy for hikers and people walking, and Wall Street is critical to that 30 kilometers of hiking trails. When I go out for a walk in the evening, I don't appreciate going up to my ankles in mud because the road is not serviced properly. I've been living in that town, in that street, since 2010, and the road is deplorable. You recently know that there's been approximately, I believe, 12 hectares of land that sold last summer to a forester, and he is actively deforesting that land. There are logging trucks in and out that road daily, sometimes 3 large logging trucks a day. That road was not built to be a logging road. The road is deplorable. We need it fixed. If I'm going to be paying, and our street is going to be paying the taxes that we pay to the county, we want that road fixed. I have no ditches in front of my property because they're filled in with Class A gravel from graders just pushing the gravel off the sides of the road. We've got a guardrail that's on a 90-degree turn in our street, a gravel road that gets covered in ice in the wintertime because it's not plowed, and that turn is very dangerous. Many cars have gone off the road. The guardrail, since I've been there in 2010, is flat, laying down over the embankment. It hasn't been serviced. We have no street lights. All we're simply asking for, and I understand that you don't control the property assessments. You could probably adjust the tax rate, mill rate. You're probably not going to do that. We want services for the taxes we pay. I invite Councillor Killam to come up, and I will take him and show him the deficiencies in how we're treated up there. That's all I want to simply address to the council this morning. I would appreciate for the taxes we pay that we get services, because we're not getting any right now. Garbage collection twice a month is all we get. And I can run garbage to the dump for a lot cheaper than $5,000 a year. Thank you very much.
Right here, Mr. Howell. I'm not sure. Are there questions for Mr. Howell?
My apologies.
Yep. Okay. Councillor Hurdle?
Yes.
I absolutely empathize with your concern for services. I also made sure to jump on our atlas, and many people don't know of this, but it's on our website. If you go to the I'd like to section, and there's a look at a maps button, and then there's an atlas link. I've always found this tool really handy, and I try to direct people that way as much as possible. So I looked up your street just to ensure that if it was municipal or provincial, or what the status of ownership was. And just to address your street concerns, the owner of that asset falls within the province of Nova Scotia. That doesn't mean as a municipality we can't advocate for you, but when it comes to relaying your municipal rate to your street, the province does have the maintenance and responsibility and ownership of your street, just for clarity.
I appreciate that. Do I pay taxes to the province or to the council of the County of Kings?
Probably both.
Both.
My property tax says County of Kings. Doesn't say province of Nova Scotia, correct?
You pay your taxes to the province through your yearly income tax. There's a federal portion and there's a provincial portion, and that's who you pay that to.
Okay.
You don't get a bill from them. You get it. You have a provincial portion in your annual tax bill or tax appropriation.
Okay. However, are you not responsible for maintaining?
No roads, just J-class roads, some subdivision roads.
All right.
I know you used to live in Kingston.
Yep.
And when you lived in Kingston, yes. Your
Yep.
subdivision roads, yes. But unfortunately, Wall Street is not one that's under the purview of the municipality.
So I have to go fight with the province to get a road fixed.
Like I said, like as Councillor Hurdle said, we can certainly advocate on your behalf. You know, have a conversation with
That would certainly be appreciated, because I know that myself as a citizen, to take on the province probably won't be as effective as having the County of Kings.
Yeah.
You can understand that, I mean, there should be no reason for logging trucks going in and out our road, destroying our road, and then the province just goes, oh well.
Yep.
Right?
Like I said, we can certainly, your councillor or any councillor here can advocate on your behalf and might have an opportunity to talk to the regional Department of Public Works on your behalf. But, you know, when it comes right down to the nub, it is a provincial road and it is their money, so.
All right. I again extend my invitation to Councillor Killam, and you're welcome to come up to my place and we'll go for a little walkabout if you like.
Can I get your address and phone number so I can?
My phone number, 902.
Maybe not
Yeah.
public.
Yeah.
Online.
Okay.
After the
Yeah,
meeting,
Good
yeah.
point, good
No.
point.
Yes.
I'll pass it, I'll pass it along to you.
Yeah,
All right.
a little later, I was going to say.
All right, okay, all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor
Anybody
Hurdle.
else? Sorry.
Councillor Harding, did you have something?
Through you, Madam Chair. Yes, I see where you're coming with this. I got a big area in District 5. I'm making phone calls just about every day on behalf of my constituents. with this, basically same problems with dirt roads, logging trucks. They beat the road apart. The only avenue I have is to call the MLA's office, have chats with him, call the provincial, but I do it on behalf of them, and I said, you do that as well. So I'm trying to, I guess, it's, you know, they must have a priority list too. So that's the only way that I see it possible to try to get to that point. People come to me all the time and say, well, I'm paying this much tax. And I feel for them, I really do, and I feel for you. And I wish there was another way to do this, but this is the only way I can help out.
I appreciate that, and
Thank you.
And I do understand. We're all taxpayers. I know we are, and we're all feeling the same crunch. It's just that I mean, as just community members, we feel like we're being left out because our road is just being abused and nothing's being done about it. And you know, sure, I can be a bit of a rebel and block the road, but that's only going to generate more trouble, right? With RCMP and media and so on and so forth. And we really don't want to go down that road. I mean, it would be easier. I mean, Minister Lorne doesn't need this on his plate either, but that's who looks after us in this area. So,
Councillor Granger?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just wondering if your area has like an association, like a Canada Creek Association or something like that?
No, we do not.
Like any kind of community group at all? Because sometimes it's a good thing if your association or something like a community group gets together, writes a letter, and not only includes the logging company, asking them, you know, maybe your trucks need a better road too, so maybe you can kick in. And I mean, there's a lot of different ways to handle it, but yeah, advocating for yourself is a great way to go if you've got some numbers with you. So maybe your community might want to write a letter together to the province regarding the road, the guardrail, the manner in which the road is kept. They could be unaware, and you might be just raising their awareness as well. Yeah, I would gladly advocate for you. If Councillor Killam goes, we'll both truck along and check it out, and we could give you avenues on how to advocate for yourself.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question for the gentleman public. Did you reach out to Chris Palmer by chance?
No.
Not
No,
as
I
of
didn't.
yet? Okay.
No.
Probably a suggestion would be to reach out to Chris, really great person to talk to. He would probably gladly assist you to have a look at your street. I will also give my services to Councillor Killam. If I actually work for the Department of Transportation, Public Works, so they're very good to deal with, believe it or not. If we can collaborate with the MLA in the area, I have no problem going to the head management in Berwick and having them have a look at it through Chris and through Councillor Killam. If that's something you want to do, I have no problem doing that for you and seeing if we can get somebody up there.
Appreciate it very much. This to repair that road is going to be very costly because the road has been neglected for that long, and then with all this heavy equipment that's been going in and out the road in the last 6 months, it's going to be a big undertaking by transportation to repair that road. But there's been nothing done with it.
Like you said, you're taxpayers as well as all of us. So if there's something we can do, I mean, there are budgets for a reason for roads, and if you guys are okay with it, you know, I'd certainly like to send my assistance to the councillor and through the MLA, and I can certainly try to help as much as I can with
Perfect.
it.
I do appreciate everybody's input on this. I really do, and hopefully we can get this resolved without making it any bigger than it needs to be, right? So, again, thank you very much for your time, and thanks again for your service. Thank you.
Did you have anything else, Councillor Killam?
That the safety issue here with respect to fire service and ambulance service to that particular community, if that road is that bad, that's a big item to include in what we try to do to encourage that fix. Just thought I'd throw that in there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think the CAO and I determined that this might, we're a little unsure on the line between MLA Lohr and Palmer, so it's one or the other. We're not sure which. So we can figure that out. I thank Mr. Howell for coming. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward and speak? Sure. Just come forward. Name and address, please.
Was not my intention. Do I push a button here?
You can just pull the mic down.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Yeah, I think we're good there.
Okay, thank you. As I say, I'm not intending to speak here. I'm just kind of in a process of learning. But I did overhear when I was, or when I did have some concerns when you were beginning to speak about the electoral process for automatic or digital voting only. I live in a district, Peters District as a matter of fact, that has a number of older citizens that are not at all tech savvy and don't want to be. And actually some of them are not even that much older. They just have a preference of not being tech savvy. And so I'm very, very concerned about a fully automated voting system. For me personally, I'm going yay. I like the idea. But a lot of people in my area certainly would not. And the other thing that I was thinking, nobody's actually brought up that 2020 issue. I think we were during COVID, and a lot of people wouldn't be out voting for any reason. So I think that should have been considered in the process. So to totally eliminate any kind of a paper vote, I know phoning is accessible, and for some that might work. But again, you're still getting into a group of people who don't want to go in that direction, or can't, or don't have the ability to travel as easily. That eliminates people from voting. For me, if one person can't vote, that's denying them their right to be able to do so. The other thing I'm concerned about is the help issue. Does the help issue mean that there's going to be somebody, I mean, look, I can honestly foresee a lot of people going, okay, here's the phone, I gotta push what button, I'm not really sure what to do, even though they're being said, okay, you have a choice of 3 or 4 people, push A, B, C, or green, red, or yellow. I can still see confusion, and will that mean someone actually having to go into the voting booth with them? If that's the case, again, I have another concern. That takes away from them their ability to vote privately, to keep their choice secret. And that should be something that we should strongly, strongly protect for every individual. And so those are my concerns. I don't understand yet if that process is complete, if that decision is now made and there's no going back. So I'm just asking that if it's not completed and there is still some choice or some wiggle room, that you consider those people that really don't have that ability.
The motion that went through today was committee of the whole. It would be brought forward to council.
Okay.
But as the clerk pointed out in her presentation,
Yeah.
There is always an option to go back and change the bylaw.
Reassess.
Exactly.
Yeah,
But I
so-
think the biggest thing here is education,
Yeah.
and making sure that everyone is aware that the option is there for them and that there is help there for them.
Yeah.
And to make them understand, you know, what their options
Yeah,
are.
I clearly want to make known, I'm not opposed to electronic voting. Actually, I'm really on board with that. So, but again, I just don't want to see one single person excluded from that.
No,
Oh,
nor do
okay.
we.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I don't see anything else on our agenda for a committee of the whole. We will be going into a special council, but do we have lunch? So we have lunch here, so we'll probably have our lunch and then we'll come back for the special council after, which I'm assuming will be quite short. So can I have a motion to adjourn? Councillor Allen, Councillor Davison, thank you. All those in favor or otherwise?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll send you a sandwich.
Good afternoon. It is 12:35, and I'm calling to order the special council meeting of January 23rd, 2024. I'm Yanni Postema, the municipal clerk, and the reason that I'm calling this meeting to order is that Mayor Matard is unable to attend in person. I believe he is still joining us virtually. And Deputy Mayor Lutz had to send regrets, and Section 15 of the Municipal Government Act allows council to appoint a chair from among the council members present in this situation. So I would like to ask for one of our councillors to put forward a motion to appoint a chair, and please indicate who you would like to appoint as chair. Councillor Granger. You are moving to appoint who to the chair this afternoon?
Councillor Armstrong.
Councillor Armstrong, do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Harding. So if that motion can be put up on the screen, and then we'll take the vote. And you can vote now. And that vote, that motion passes unanimous. Sorry, Councillor, Mayor Matard, thank you very much for your vote. That motion passes unanimously, and I will give over the chair to Councillor Armstrong.
Okay. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. As clerk has called the meeting to order, can I get everyone to register their presence through our voting system, please?
The mayor is present, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, so we have everyone but Deputy Mayor Lutz with us. So can I get a motion to excuse the Deputy Mayor from our meeting this afternoon? Councillor Allen, Councillor Harding, thank you. And you can register your votes on that now.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Great. So we have a very short agenda before us. I'm assuming there's no additions or deletions. So can I have a motion to approve the agenda? Councillor Killam? Okay, don't everybody jump in. Councillor Davidson, thank you. No discussion on that. I'll call the question. You can register your vote now.
Aye.
Thank you. So with an approved agenda, this is an opportunity for the councillors to disclose any conflict of interest issues that they might have. I don't see any hands going up. So we'll get right into the meat of this. We have two recommendations from Committee of the Whole from this morning. And the first one is that Municipal Council resolve to conduct the municipal election 2024 by electronic voting, internet and telephone per section 146A, subsection 1, Municipal Elections Act. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Davison, Councillor Burgess, thank you. Is there any discussion? Nothing? I'll call the question. You can register your, oh, sorry. Did you do that when I turned my head away?
I absolutely do, and I'm probably the annoyance of the mayor and deputy mayor because I'm a slow button presser. I missed, admittedly, a portion of the presentation on this Committee of the Whole vote, but I did support this in Committee of the Whole, heard public comment, and it reminded me of things that I've heard from many previously and concerns around electronic voting and being the preference. And my worry is not personal, but it is for those who are concerned that electronic voting can or could be potentially perceived as a privacy concern around the vote. and oftentimes that's due to a fear of electronic intrusion like we had in the summer, potentially not being aware of how the technology works, or simply genuine and well-meaning skepticism of electronic recording of votes. So that has kind of left me in a position to worry about moving towards entirely conducting electronic voting. And at the current form, I would vote against this. I would like to see some sort of mechanism in place for those who want to participate and remove any kind of barrier that electronic voting may cause for some people, and allow for simple ballots being cast at with a compromise, maybe at a central or two central locations where those who are used to voting with a pencil and paper, they're able to cast their vote with an X and never touch a device in the entirety of their voting process. I would be more comfortable with that, but in the current form, I cannot support this.
Thank you. Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be voting against this for a lot of the same reasons Councillor Hurdle just mentioned. I've talked to a number of people recently that said they don't own a cell phone, they don't have access to the internet. So I think we're excluding a number of people that will find it difficult to get somewhere to vote. So for those reasons, and I'll be voting against it. I think we're going to be losing voters, not increasing the number.
Okay.
And I think the numbers are very low now, so for that reason, I'll be voting against it. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any more lights, so if council doesn't mind, I do have something to say. I'm in favor of this. I think that the numbers that were shown to us through the presentation at Committee of the Whole from the clerk showed that the majority, I think it was 3/4 of the votes cast in our last election, were electronically submitted. And I understand that there are people out there who may not have cell phones, but a lot of them still have telephones which can be used, like hard wired telephones in their house, which can be used for voting. And I think that there is going to be certainly a learning curve for us to investigate other avenues to make people confident in the way that they vote and make it easier for them, whether it be having people go around to nursing homes or private homes or community halls to get that information out to them. And that's our mission before we go into the election season in the fall. So that's what I have to say. Councillor Davidson.
Thank you through you, Madam Chair. I feel the same. I was actually on the fence when I read this a few times at home. I was not really sure if I was going to vote for it, but with the work that the county staff has done, they alleviated a lot of my concerns with people getting to the polls. Actual telephone, a lot don't have cell phones, but they have the regular phones. The questions were answered, and so I will certainly be supporting it.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
I'm in favor of the motion. I heard what the individual from the public at the mic had to say. I believe that she misunderstood the fact that in the paper process, if we were on paper, then the individuals would have to travel to the polls and mark their paper. In this scenario, those same individuals, if they prefer to drive to the polls, will have a place to drive to. They will simply have assistance available to them at that place so that they can properly register their vote. The individuals who help them do not look over their shoulders and will not know how they are voting. So I think that the individual, while they meant well when they were speaking, in protecting the electorate, perhaps misunderstood that that was the case. I think the voters will all have an opportunity to vote, whether they wish to drive to a poll or whether they do not. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? Just to the mayor's point, I heard what the lady in the gallery said during the committee of the whole, and as the sister of a developmentally delayed adult, I have taken him to the polls for every election that we've ever gone through. He's only 18 months older than I am, and I've always gone behind the barrier with him, pointed out what he needed to do, and always walked away. So even in having my own family member, I never ever looked over his shoulder, and I would hope that that would be the way that anybody would help someone in doing that, so in casting their vote. Councillor Granger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm in favor of this. I think this is the way it's going to go. 2020 was a good start for us to be able to, I mean, that was under duress too, so it had to be set up quickly, and so I do believe that, you know, it's a possible thing. It's no more unsure than a paper vote. So to me, this makes a lot of sense to start going this direction, because I think we're going to end up there anyway. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no more lights, no more hands, so I'll call the question, and you can register your vote now, please.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That motion passes with 2 negative votes. Thank you. So the next item before us is tender. There we go. That municipal council give. Oh, right, the second one. Sorry, I misunderstood. That municipal council give first reading to the bylaw 108, alternative voting, as attached to the January 23rd, 2024 request for decision. Can I have a mover, please? This was the second half of the one we did. Councillor Harding, Councillor Allen, thank you. Is there any discussion? No? I'll call the question. You can register your vote now.
And I might say I'm not sure that the people looking at this meeting online are seeing any of the material appear on the screen. And the last thing that appeared was the recommendation regarding the tender.
Okay. All right, that's coming up next, so hopefully we'll get that glitch worked out. That motion passes. Thank you. So now we're at the tender. Yes. That municipal council resolved to, where? Okay. Okay. That municipal council award tender number 23-26, supply, delivery, and licensing of new vehicles to Bruce Leasing Limited, as described in the request for decision dated January 23, 2024. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Harding, Councillor Hurdle, thank you. Is there any discussion on this? I'll call the question. You can register your vote now.
Aye.
Thank you. And that passes unanimously. Thank you. We are down to number 5, other business. Is there any other business to come before the meeting? Nothing from council. Thank you. Any comments from the public? Nothing. Thank you. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Councillor Allen, Councillor Davison. Thank you. I won't ask if there's discussion. You can register your vote now.
Aye, and if I can tag along a question, is the nominating committee meeting immediately following this?
Yes. Nominating
Thank
committee.
you.
Yes. That passes. I thank you all very, very much. Have a great day.